Taking a minute.
I'm gonna be useless at work tomorrow.
Can y'all see make sure the live's up? Sometimes it does this. It shows mine saying
I'm
the
not
video is
seeing it.
private, but it's actually not.
Candace is in trouble.
Oh, okay. We're live.
Okay.
Check the chat, boys.
I just got the notification for it. So
All right, you ready? Record.
give it just a minute. See if anybody else pops in.
Wait, Matt, Ryan, were you serious that there was a wasp nest outside your literal window?
Yeah, I've got the raid sitting over
Holy
there.
crap.
It's pretty wild.
Just a minute. See if anybody else pops in. Okay. Yeah, we can get started whenever you're ready, Matt.
Okay. Let's see. All right. 3, 2.
All right. Jungle Auburn podcast, the official podcast of your 2024 SEC tournament champions. We just took down the Florida Gators. We took down the Mississippi State Bulldogs. We took down the South Carolina Cox. We're coming off a 19-point victory. We ran them out the gym. Matt was in attendance. You don't win rings every day. The confetti fell. The trophies went up. We're going to get those rings. Earlier in the day, we saw a great reaction at the hotel of a Tiger Walk with tons of Auburn fans. And Bruce Pearl walked up those steps and kind of took a pause and looked around. And he said, let's cut down some nets. And that's what we did. Matt, you want to tell us what was it like in person to see our Tigers bring home a championship for the second time in this podcast history?
I was gonna say incredible. Surreal to watch them cut down nets. I mean, that's what it's all about in this sport. Jackson, I was immediately taken back to you got to fly down 2 years ago and be there for the regular season title clinching win. Just special, man. And without getting too poetic romantic about it, it's just the guys on this team that have meant so much to us as fans over many years, a lot of them. To see them get to celebrate that moment and to see this team that's had great chemistry all year and played, we knew there was a high ceiling for them. I feel like we all believed it, but maybe we didn't have those hang your hat on it wins. We got a couple of them this week that were great. And it's just great to see this group get rewarded with a title. And, quite frankly, to get Auburn back in the title column, it's been 5 years since that magical SEC tournament win. Hadn't won a game in the tournament since. We talked about that. So great to see us run 3 games in 3 days. People can talk about who we played, whatever. Those teams beat the teams that everybody said was better than them. And we came out on top, and it was just great to see Bruce and the boys get to celebrate another one.
Me and Ben, even though we live in the same city, we live in very different parts of the city. So we don't get together very often for these basketball games, but we got to get together and watch this one live together. And we were talking about how this team is good, but we weren't sure if it was great yet. We were somewhere in between. We have solidified in the Auburn history of basketball that this team is great. Ben, thoughts about this great team?
I mean, what does Bruce talk about every week, every season, every day, every minute? Make history. And we have been hoping for this team to have that chance. Last year, the big step forward that we took as a program was just making the dance. We needed a big win over Tennessee at home at the end of the year to solidify our spot. And today, we punched an automatic ticket to March Madness. That's 3 years in a row we'll be dancing. One more, we are going to join some rarefied air. But we'll talk about the future later. This is all about talking about the present. Clinking a few glasses on St. Patrick's Day and watching the Tigers bring home a banner.
Ryan, you went off last podcast about the history of Auburn basketball and how deep your knowledge goes and the stupid games you've been to in the past and just how down we were. It was comical, some of the names you were saying, because we were down that bad. When people say Jalen Williams and Jonai Broom and Chad Baker-Mazara, Aiden Holloway, Denver Jones, Chaney Johnson, Katie Johnson, all these people, they will not be saying them jokingly. They will be saying them with reverence, with excitement. So, Ryan, what'd you think?
It's really cool. I go to the SEC tournament a lot. I even went back in the day when it was in Atlanta, and we just honestly, never turned out to do anything, right? It was just a big comic fest. We always played on Wednesday, barely played on Thursdays. So anytime you get the opportunity to win one of these tournaments, I mean, NC State, storied program, right? Won a national championship, Jimmy Valvano. They won their first ACC tournament for the first time since 1986 last night. I mean, these things don't happen often. So when you have the opportunity to win one and win it in just this fashion, people are always going to try to downplay it. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for seedings, whoop-de-doo. It matters when you go into the arena and you see that banner up there, right? And people take notice. People are going to take notice of the crowd that we had today, Neville North. They're going to take notice of those things. And it's special because once it's gone and you don't have that momentum to ever do it again, then you realize, wow, what an awesome thing that is. And then, the fans start fading away. But just cherish this moment now because winning in March is such a unique experience, right? That you feel it a little bit during the regular season, but man, when you're down to like every possession matters, it's so much fun. And this was just a teaser for next week. But it's just awesome. It's so cool. I hope people enjoy it. I hope it doesn't go away, right? Like with all the changes coming, whatever that looks like. Tournament's going to be expanded even more next year. So, having two in the past 5 years is so cool. It's awesome, honestly.
We've only won 3 ever. I just want people we've won 3 ever. This is 2 for Bruce. This is 2 tournament titles, 2 regular season titles. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but just you always have to have the context of how unique these moments are. And I think the thing I felt this morning more than anything is you're right, Ryan. Like we were favored today, and we had the crowd today, and it felt like one of those days. Like, man, we just got to take it. Like we got to kick down the door, and take care of business. What an opportunity we have! It would have been true against anybody, but in this kind of moment. You have to kick down the door and go take it. When Florida got within 1 point in the second half and it became pretty tight, man, our guys responded with just flawlessly the rest of the way and played incredible.
What was really cool for me is going to a lot of these. It's the blue mist, right? It's Kentucky every which way. Matt and I talked Friday night about this. Like that's their vacation. It always has been. They save up thousands of dollars. And they just go sit and watch basketball all day, right? So up until 2018, they won it almost every single year, right? They haven't won it since. This thing has been completely flipped on its head, and it was so cool to see Auburn fans show up and show out today because taking over a tournament game like that is so unique. And I think our players were blown away by it. You heard in all the post-game interviews. I mean, they were just like, man, did not expect that at all. So it's really cool because typically you just see Kentucky and Tennessee show out for these things or Arkansas, right? Whenever they play in a championship game or whatever. But to see Auburn fans show up to the occasion is special. It is awesome.
This was and I'm so glad you said that. This was nobody does what Kentucky does. That was even the talk this week. It's insane. Kentucky goes out the first game. They're still everywhere. They're everywhere in the city. They're in the arena. This was as close to anything I've seen with any other fan base in the SEC, what they would do, like if you want to be in the upper echelon of SEC fan bases, I cannot express to you guys. I was fortunate to go to every game every game that Auburn played this week. The difference between yesterday and today was no short of 10 or 12,000 extra fans that were there today on 24 hours notice. Now, granted, we know Huntsville, we know Birmingham, we know there's a lot of people in Middle Tennessee that are Auburn people too, but I was blown away. I mean, I knew it would be a predominantly Auburn crowd, but I had pretty high expectations. It was unbelievable. I mean, if for anybody who was at the 2019 Auburn-Tennessee game where Auburn was the 5%, which was incredible to come out on top in that game, this was not that, but it was way closer to that than it probably should have been. And just credit to Bruce. But again, who built that? Bruce yesterday, immediately, and it's the genius of what he does. He's taking his time on SEC Network after the game to talk about everybody drive, go, be there. We have an opportunity to make this a thing. And to see people react to that so quickly and so seamlessly, the tickets were, I got my tickets for $25 yesterday for today, which shout out to all the upsets because that's what made that happen. But today, it was 150 plus getting in. And
Wow.
Auburn people
Got it.
bought them all up. So, I mean, Ryan's right on the money there. Like, pretty historic stuff from the
So
fan
you
base
bought
today.
you bought the championship tickets yesterday for 25, but by the time the gates opened, it was 100 something. Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Because I
Yeah,
was thinking
this
a big reason a lot of these people got to drive in, everything was because the tickets
They were
dropped so
still
hard. But
cheaper. They were still cheaper than it would have been if Kentucky or Tennessee was on the other side. But I mean, we did a number on this thing, and it showed. I hope it came through on TV. It was
it
pretty
was
phenomenal.
rocking. It was rocking.
the who was the other tournament teams? We've had three, 2019, this year in the 80s.
I
86,
believe it was
85.
85.
Is it Sonny Smith's year? I think we go back and listen to Sonny Smith podcast. I believe we talked about the SEC tournament run. That was a lot of fun to do that podcast. It's really cool to watch every year so far in this podcast us build those bricks of a culture. And we just built another one, right? 2 years
Yep.
ago, and we had Pearlville or Tiger Tents or whatever they're trying to call it now, the Pearlville #1 ranking, and now people camp out. We had 2 camp outs this year. And that was just one of those kind of cultural building things. This whole Neville North, this Auburn North thing with the AU Nashville club, it's just another brick that's being built right now. We're now starting to build this culture. They're like, hey, when we play in Nashville, it's Auburn North. Everybody's coming up for it. It's like a cultural thing now. Yeah, we talked about how Kentucky does that all the time. We probably won't ever be able to match that just because they've had decades and decades of that kind of culture, like you said, making this their vacation. But I think next year, some people are going to be thinking about it. Hey, how much fun would it be to go to Nashville for 2 or 3 games? They got the Auburn North thing going on. Let's do a party or birthday around it or whatever. So just cool, like breathe that in that every time this stuff happens, it's another brick that people are going to put in their base as a cultural thing Auburn basketball does.
The best thing is how much better our fan base is getting. So much better at watching basketball in person. It's truly the most amazing thing of this run to me. I sat behind a guy today who named off every assistant staff to his wife and other people he was with as they're cutting down the nets. Not only that, this guy had reservations in like 6 of the 8 potential NCAA tournament sites because they're traveling to watch this team. Now, granted, they're retired, whatever. But the fact that people are doing that and the fact that our fans are so on it, we were on the refs today when we should have been. And that's the growth that's just unbelievable. And it's a testament to the players and coaches for putting a product on the floor that is so exciting. And not to mention, Jabari and all these guys that are following. Like we have now this follow. We've built enough, like Jackson said. We have a squad of old players, former players, like watching this group and cheering them on. It's really, really special.
I was trying to think of how to address this in the podcast. We've got our format pretty set over the last couple of years of how we talk about a post game, but we've got 3 post games, a championship, and a bracket for NCAA to talk about. I think maybe the best way to start is trying to get MVP for this game. And once we can figure that out for the Florida game, we can go into maybe the entire MVP. We know in the South Carolina game, we named Janai Broome as the MVP. In the Mississippi State game, we named Denver Jones as MVP. So now we got the Florida game. We've got a couple people in the chat, shout out chat, and we got some people on Reddit. They've got their opinions. King Cake Baby OKC says it's got to be Janai Broome, but Trey Donaldson is one who blew this game open. I love in several of these games that we've had other certain players blow these games open, even if they weren't the MVP. It's been different players every single game. AU Bear says Janai 9 dude so late because 9 because I said we are doing it at 9. Yeah, so people are looking for the podcast now live. SC War Eagle says Broome did it all week. Jones and CBM gave him a run for his money, especially with Denver locking down so many strong guards. Love the defense. AU Art says Janai with awesome day. Keep Cool Coolidge says shout out Semo, 6 rebounds and 100% shooting. Shout out Caldwell, 4 blocks and 100% shooting. Trey, the biggest momentum plays on this game, but Janai is the MVP. So we've got some votes there. I don't know if we want to go around. Matt, who was your MVP for this one? I think this one's a little easier than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's a team effort. Again, our depth really showed out this week. Janai, though, Janai's a man. He has turned into such a dominant player. To me, he's the difference, especially when we were pulling away, when things got tight, when we were pulling away at the end. We were just hammering it to Janai. There was a lineup at one point on the floor late with, I was nervous about it because it was Aiden, KD, Chris Moore, Cheney, and Janai. And I was like, 4 has to touch the ball every possession. And what did we do? 4 touched the ball every possession, and the game was put to bed. So to me, Janai Broome, it was a well-deserving MVP of the tournament, which he was named, but also of this game and leading us. And I respect how much he put in. He was leading his guys today in a way that was pretty different from how I've seen him before. So all the stuff, defense, offense, leadership, and just being a guy. Every game he shows up. He was in double digits every SEC game. Did we talk about that?
No.
That's incredible.
Like in the regular season?
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, and there were many
crazy.
games.
No, not quite. He led the SEC. I don't know if it was every single SEC game, but I do know that he had 22 games with double digits, which is the most of any player in the entire conference.
I'm scouting it.
I'm about to look it up right now, but his stats for tonight were today 19 points, 3 blocks, 11 rebounds, a double-double from Janai Broome again, man. Yeah, he just dominated down the stretch. He's definitely my vote also. Actually, I say down the stretch, he dominated all year or all game long. It was interesting that Mississippi State game, they kept trying to double him, and he was not as effective, and he had to push the ball out, and our guards needed to make some shots, and we ended up winning that game, but it definitely was a bit of a struggle. This game, and honestly, all year long, it's been incredible, and don't take it for granted, especially after all the centers we've watched. We've had some decent centers in the past, but to watch him go one-on-one, and if he's anywhere close to the basket, it's in. The incredible touch he has, it's just insane. You would every single time for a year now, I hold my breath when that ball goes up because it just doesn't look like a clean look, but it goes in every single time. And now he's driving the ball, he's hitting threes, he's getting rebounds. It's just really something else. And it just sucks that he's not like the NBA prototype because he is like as good as it gets in college basketball for a center. Right?
I don't have him this year if he is though.
Yeah, true. Ryan, I think you were looking at the stats there.
Every SEC game.
Every SEC. And some of those games, he did not score in the first half. That was a weird stat. He didn't score in the first half at least 2 or 3 times, but he always got his. And that's what we were talking about before the year, right? Do we have a guy that always gets theirs? Apparently, we do.
So there were 2 games this year where he had 10, and that was last game against Mississippi State. And then Texas A&M earlier in conference play, he had 10. Everything else was over 10.
Storm, is that your vote for MVP this game? Any other shout outs along with it? I mean, I just think he had such a dominant performance in this one.
I mean, they could not stop him at all. Like, and we'll get into like some details into the game here in just a moment because I want to talk about trends, right? And the way this team has been trending and where we are now. But, it's close, but you got to go with Janai. I mean, when we need a bucket, he's our guy. And when we were running things for him, it was unstoppable. The way that the coaches are focusing on our half-court sets and the way that they are running things to get him to the right spots and him having the ability to get there, I mean, I remember like maybe 1 or 2 shots today where he missed it, but there are not many times where when he gets to the spot, he's not missing it at all. And that's going to be key come the next, few rounds of March Madness is we're going to need buckets. We're going to Yale for sure is probably going to try to slow us down. They're not going to want to run with us. So, Janai and Jalen are going to have to feast down low again. And that they're feeding him at the right times, at the right places. He's getting buckets when we need it. I mean, he's a force. And I think this is going to bode really well in the offseason with the portal. But Bruce has gotten 2 guys from the portal, right? Kessler and Janai. And they, throughout their times at Auburn, continue to improve every single game. Janai is the perfect example, right? The beginning of last year, we're all kind of like, it's there, but man, he didn't have any lift. He like can't jump. He's not athletic. He's kind of soft, right? And all throughout SC play, and especially in the tournament, he was the exact opposite. I mean, of course, like he could have more lift, right? But man, he was banging. He is just like Jackson. You said there were some shots that were like, how's that go in? But that's his game. That's just how he is. and it is amazing. He is amazing, and he is a perfect example of a guy who was in the mid-major, and he just needed time to develop, and he's still developing. But man, he's so special to watch, and he's going to carry this team as much as he can throughout the next few rounds, hopefully farther than that.
Ben, you want to gush on how great Janai Broom's been this whole SEC tournament too? I think we've got three. We got three. I'm gonna need the whole complete picture here.
No, I do not. I want to talk about a couple of things that made Janai so incredible. And Ryan has been on this more than anybody, but it's been the incredible play of a guy wearing 12 and white by the name of Denver Jones. Denver Jones' ability to get to the rack, slice inside, and score baskets right underneath the bucket has just completely changed the dynamic of our offense. And you saw it today. Part of the reason why Janai was able to feast so well on offense was we forced Florida to defend the whole floor. Every time they tried to double Janai, somebody made a bucket, and they had to adjust their defense back, and they had to account for the fact that we had guys making plays all across the floor. But there's a name I want to bring up here because we may not get to say it again in this context. Chris Moore, the heart of this team, as he has been described by the locker room, as he has been described by Bruce. I mean, the legend of his speech at halftime in the Mississippi State game. None of the other players wanted to say that it was him. He didn't want to take credit for it. We finally got it leaked out that Chris Moore went in there and lit a fire under everybody to work hard, rebound, bang down low. And despite re-injuring his shoulder, Chris Moore had another incredible banging down low game. He had a season high 7 points, but he collected 6 rebounds, all 6 of them on the defensive end. We saw against Mississippi State and the last time we played Florida in Gainesville, second chance points were absolutely killer for us. Every time we would play a great defensive possession, get them late in the shot clock, get the look that we wanted, they would miss, but then a guy would be there to bang in and get the second chance points. And Chris Moore was an absolute eraser on the floor tonight.
I put this up, Ben, as you were talking. Chris Moore did not miss a shot in the whole tournament.
Efficiency right there.
He made
That's
his free
insane.
throw. He made his 1-3. He made every 2-point shot he hit. He did not turn it over the whole tournament. So like you talk about, it's a small role coming off the bench, and sure, but I'm telling you, like you mentioned those defensive rebounds, huge. And when you again see it in person, we heard it all year. He is the leader. You can argue his play, you can argue his effectiveness, whatever, but he is the guy they listen to. And I'm so glad you mentioned yesterday in that halftime and the way we were beat on the glass in the first half against Mississippi State. If you want to look at a turning point for this tournament, look no further than the way we won rebounding in the second half against Mississippi State. And that, like you said, Chris clearly got his message across to the boys at halftime.
I mean, some of the most amazing parts, and we'll go ahead and crown Janai Broom here, our MVP for Florida. And I think we don't even have to discuss it. We can crown Janai Broom our SEC tournament MVP, just like they did in real life at the thing, So shot of Red Mount vodka here to our MVP. You got you ready, Ryan? You got your shot too?
BRB.
BRB. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen,
he's diving into his cave underneath his desk to find his secret vodka.
Once again, this is the Tiger Blood cocktail. It's Redmond vodka, lemonade, and blue curacao, baby. Oh, there it is.
There we go. Not the
Ryan.
Charles Barkley bottle, but we'll take it.
Still never got it.
What? You should have told me. We could have got it to you.
I did. Anyways.
Redmond, hit us up. We're running dry for March Madness. We're gonna
MVP Janai Broom, SEC tournament champions, guys.
Woo!
War Eagle.
Chad Baker-Mazara also got on the all-tournament team, which I always forget about the all-tournament team because we just haven't been in enough of these situations. And I was
right?
Oh yeah, there's an all-tournament team. And that got him really emotional, which is a cool piece of that, just his story and what he's meant to this team on the offensive end especially. It's just really, really neat.
Chad is happy to be here, man.
Always.
Bruce always gets these guys that appreciate where they came from, like where they are now.
Yep.
And for those that don't, like obviously they aren't here anymore, right? Like the guys who transferred at the end of last year. But I mean, these guys that he brings in that are JUCO guys that have gone through the, low mid-major teams, they're just so happy to be here. And I think they understand like the position they're in. Like Malik Dunbar was one of the biggest examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw him one time at a the War Ready team for the TBT they do the throwback tournament. So they did a practice game close by, and I went one time to get like a basketball signed by the Final Four team. And I was like, dude, how much you miss playing? He goes, man, I think about it every day. That was like the experience of a lifetime. Like these guys, some of these guys just get it. I think Chad's one of those guys that
Yep.
gets it.
And we don't, at this podcast, we do not understand. You've heard me rant about it many times, the people that don't get it, because it looks like amazing. Why would you ever give up an extra year when you could, you know?
Did you see Bryce tweeting today too? Bryce was like,
Oh, and Jared.
and Jared and all those guys who can't ever have that moment again. Like Jackson's always on this. Like this whole season of March and like these moments on this stage, like it doesn't really get any better than that in the sport. I mean, sure, making the NBA is great and making those contracts if you're good enough is the dream, right? But man, I'm telling you, like y'all said earlier, when you need a stop and you're in an arena of 20,000 plus and watching everybody play connected and play for each other and play together, and it's there's nothing better than that. And I think we've been on that as a podcast. And you're absolutely right, Ryan. Bruce, for better or worse, he really values that. I mean, Janai, I don't know if you heard the story today. Janai was saying when Bruce Pearl first called him, like his eyes lit up. He got nervous. Like, Bruce Pearl's calling me. Like when he was in the portal. Like this is a big deal, Bruce. And then he called Bruce. He thinks the best coach in America, because of how he's developed and how he's been utilized and the freedom he gets to play with that he would not have a lot of other places. So it's really, really cool.
Another ring in the Bruce Pearl's finger to show off to the recruits and the transfer portal guys and show that. And another example he has of a team that didn't play these star minutes to say, hey, these guys are getting theirs, and we're going to put them off to the next level, what they need to do. But you take the sacrifices that I ask you, and you win championships. Doesn't that look fun to you? And hey, talk to these past players, talk to the guys on the team now. They had a lot of fun. I think they'll trade those extra 5 to 10 minutes anytime to win another ring. So,
do y'all think they set up Todd Golden, the broadcast and the media set him up for failure today? Just with the amount of questions that they kept, like, every time he'd talk, they were always asking, so what is it like facing Bruce, the guy who, like, pretty much helped raise you and all that stuff, and he'd always, like, answer so honestly, and you could tell it weighed on him a little bit. I don't think it was the opposite. Like, I don't think our guys really focused on that a lot, but they kept asking him and asking him and asking him. Even before the game, before tip-off, Marty Smith had a microphone, was like, what is it like facing, Bruce over there who helped, raise you and got you this job essentially? And I don't know. I thought that was all weird how they kept.
Did you hear he went to the locker room before the game? Todd went to the Auburn locker room before the game.
They're they're best friends.
They're best friends. Him and Steven, right?
It's crazy. And I really like Todd Golden. I hung up with him when we went to Vegas. I told you all that story. Like, so cool. And I always thought, like, if Bruce was to ever leave, like, I would 100% think he would take this job, like, without a doubt. He understands how special Auburn is. But it's funny because, like, he's at Florida, which was and is such a respected job, with Billy Donovan being there and winning national championships. And he's building a program there, which is very scary, right? I mean, you could see what he could do with some guys in there. But that whole situation, I feel like, was setting him up for it was a lot of pressure on him. And they just kept asking him and asking him and asking him. But you never heard them ask Bruce about it. So it was just interesting.
We were at the bar in New York, and when he came on the screen, Todd Golden, we were talking to some casual, some neutral fans over there. I said, man, Florida found somebody. Like, I don't want to have to play this guy every year. He's a Bruce disciple, but man, they might have found another Billy Donovan. He's young. He's got this team, Florida, in the championship game already, I believe in his second year. Like, he's going to be somebody where like, the one good thing is I can't stand Nate Oates. I can't stand Eric Musselman. But man, this Todd Golden guy seems pretty cool. He's just going to be annoying. It's not going to be like a hatred kind of. It's going to be like Rick Barnes. I don't hate Rick Barnes either, but like it's just annoying. I'm tired of them being good. And Todd Golden's going to be is younger. Like if anything, Florida's going to have a problem if he keeps winning like he is, and he's getting the respect that he's getting. Their problem's going to be him leaving for the NBA or something like that. Not that he's going to like get fired or quit or whatever. So I don't know if you guys. Yeah, one thing I was looking at on the box score here that I think is so interesting. 7 points from Chris Moore, 7 points from Dylan Cardwell, 7 points from Chaney Johnson. These guys, it's all at some point during the year, were found change guys. Beginning of the year, middle of the year, whatever. Each one of these, we did not expect them to be consistent guys, especially Dylan Cardwell, a little bit Chaney Johnson, and now a little bit Chris Moore. They're becoming consistent threats, kind of guys that'll get you something. And nobody's expecting them to get double digits, but we're kind of starting to expect 5 points here or there, 7 points here or there.
Do we have 10 offensive weapons, Ben? Are we up to 10 now?
Yes, Matt, I think we can finally say it. I think Chris Moore has shown that it's not been an aberration, and he's done it against quad one competition. I think I was wrong. That was right.
Well, I've been saying 7, and I was slow to give Chaney his credit as an offensive weapon. Dylan and Chris still get their points on scraps for the most part, but don't underestimate the scrap. In a game like today, getting an extra 10 or 15 points like that is huge.
Hey,
they run some plays for Cardwell too. Chaney and Cardwell get some plays run for them.
We're passing. This podcast is passing the torch from me and Jalen after this year to Ryan and Chaney. It's going to be passed.
Give Chaney another offseason in that Damon Davis program. Yeah. You can already see him evolving throughout the year. The game has slowed down. Dude, some of those shots he had were
step back 3. Ben was in the bar going, "No, Chaney, no!" And then swish. It was like, "No, Chaney!"
Oh, dude, I did that with Chris Moore yesterday. He had the ball at the top of the key. I was like, "Oh, come on, good shot."
At least Chris Moore's was like wide open. You kind of have to take that wide open shot.
Hey, but Chaney Johnson consistently knocking us down.
And the crazy part is Chaney Johnson, a lot of his offense, like you talk about found kind of like scraps like Chris Moore and Cardwell. A lot of Cardwells are like getting offensive rebounds or getting something down low. Chaney's creating his own shots out there.
They're running the full offense. They're running the full offense for him like they do for Jalen and Jabari and Chuma. They about a month or two ago, they said, "Okay, here you go. We're running our."
It all came down to when Jalen was out, right? And he had to run the offense, and then he did, and he ran it well, and they were like, "Oh, all right, yeah, sure. You've got whatever Jalen's doing, you can do it too when you're out there. You don't just have to pass the ball when it's not an open shot. Sure, dribble, make something happen." And he's doing it.
He still has his moments. I mean, like he had a really bad entry pass today that led to a breakout. Like he still has I think he stepped over the line one time when he was throwing the ball in. But like he's gonna be great. And Ryan's right. Like his athleticism is freaky. That block today is might be the best block I've ever seen in my life. I'm not
I still haven't seen a replay on that.
I heard they didn't show a replay. That's incredible. No. That was the most jaw-dropping block I've seen in person, like in transition in a long time. It was a LeBron block. I mean,
it was a Malik Dunbar block. That's what we were talking about in the bar. It says that Malik Dunbar out there. And then I posted it on the Twitter, and then Bryce Brown also posted the exact same thing. So I wasn't the only one that was thinking that felt Malik-esque.
Kentucky game, Elite Eight. That was it. That was that block.
That's how it felt.
Block was a better block, I think. Though,
yeah,
because Chaney was behind the play. Like Malik timed it up from what I remember and just met him at the point, pinned it, and then stared at him in a very amazing way. Like the whole play was a ball.
Jackson, that's an interesting point about Chaney, like loose change buckets. Like you don't see him around the rim with putback dunks or stuff like that. Like you mentioned, it's all offensive stuff in the paint, creating his own shot. Like no, not really many alley-oops either. Like it's all that's it. And that's crazy.
It's off the dribble. It's step back 3 today. It's jump shots when he's driven in the lane. Like it really is the whole offense. And that's something like we can run plays for him. He can hit an open 3. Okay. I'm not that impressed. He can run some sort of like cut underneath the basket and get something quick. Okay. I'm not that impressed, but the dribble and create your own shot, like in college basketball, that's a pretty big deal, especially for his size. I mean, Jalen doesn't do it every day either.
Well, and that's, I mean, within this tournament setting, like that's what's so important here, right? Like you go to your bench, you're not stepping off. And sometimes our bench, we're stepping up. Like today we stepped up and in certain situations. And, that's where I feel like this team can help elevate to the even more next level is because they have the ability to do that. And those guys, I want to talk about real quick the trends of this team that we saw throughout the tournament and where I think I felt that I was like, this team is kind of trending upwards. And I want to see what your thoughts are on this. The Tennessee game is where I felt like this team started trending up and where I felt like, okay, against a tough physical team that's in the upper echelon, if you will. They're starting to find their footing in what they want to do offensively, positioning guys in the right places to, make shots or to like I think the best thing this offense has done so far is getting number one, Denver Jones on the wing with an up screen, and then him getting downhill has been one of the best things that's happened to this offense and what has really opened things up. And same thing for KD. Like they kept running that on TV. They kept calling it the NASCAR, and he kept just taking it and just go right down the lane, and it was a layup or a dish off to Janai every single time. Those are things that we didn't see at the beginning of this year, honestly, at all. And where I think that's where this team began to trend up, and you just kept seeing that every single game. They're in a groove offensively, calling plays and getting buckets, and I think it's trending in the right direction, which is where you want to be this time of year compared to last year's team or the team 2 years ago.
I think it all started on that Jalen injury and the bye week at the same time. I think we were just kind of starting to peter out a bit, and then Jalen gets hurt. We have to rethink things. We have to use new players that maybe weren't using in those roles before. We go into that Georgia game and we kind of figure out that Chaney can do something. We kind of try to have to figure out what the point guards are going to do when Aiden's on such a bad streak. We kind of, like, these guys have to kind of step up a bit. And when Jalen did come back so quickly, it then felt like we had a couple weapons there. It felt like Aiden was kind of out of his slump, even though he's still not shooting well, but it just feels like he's out of a funk a little bit and maybe knows what he needs to be doing out there. And then you have Chaney added in there. And then you have the Denver post-bye week seems to have figured something out. I think he had to step up a bit in those games as a scorer, and he started hitting threes and, like you said, figured out how to drive the ball. How huge is that? He's the only guard, really, right, that can drive the ball. Aiden gets swatted every time. Trey's pretty decent, but he always ends up with that jump shot that's going in pretty much every time. Great for him, but he's not finishing at the rim and getting a foul on that one. CBM's playing well, but, like, thank God Denver's finally starting to finish at the basket, because I believe it was Ben maybe that brought that up, that's opening up a lot of stuff. So I think there was just a lot of things that came together post-bye week, post-Jalen injury, that have put us on this streak. And what we've won, I mean, we lost that Tennessee game, but man, away in Knoxville against a top 5 team, we played so well. It was one of the best losses we've had in a long time. After that, other than that one, we've won every game, and we've won them by double digits pretty much. And then, hey, y'all want to talk Mississippi State game? We finally won a close game. That's another one that was like, that one just felt, it was so tense the entire time, but it felt so good to finally win one of those close games, and a game where Janai's getting double teamed a lot. We struggled, weird refereeing out there, but little guys stepped up here and there. CBM hit a 3 at the end that really solidified that close game. We wanted to know who's out there in a close game, who's making the shots. CBM hit that 3. The final finishing lineup was Trey, Denver, CBM, Jalen, and Janai, and that was a good lineup, and I felt good with that lineup out there, and I think we've learned something about our team.
That. By the way, we tied the Flying Tigers today with our 26th double-digit win. So next one would break it. Pretty amazing. But yeah, yesterday was the game pressure. I was feeling it in Bridgestone. It was weird. I don't know if y'all felt that as fans. Like, oh man, this feels. I know it's the semifinals of the SEC tournament, but this feels even more scary than it should, because we just haven't been in that spot very much. And to see the physicality and how that challenged us. I've always said, I think if you go back and think about the team, the coaches that have given Bruce trouble, Frank Martin's teams, what are they? Insanely physical.
They want to muck up the game. They want a lot of whistles and
a little bit of Kermit Davis, and he did it with a different style of defense, but and I think if you were poking holes in Bruce's, 10-year career now at Auburn, it would be like, hey, they talk like they're physical, and they might play like they're going to talk a lot, but they're a little more finesse sometimes than maybe they think they are. But this week, to me, the whole story, because South Carolina did the same thing, guys. First 8 minutes of that game, we were getting punked. We're getting pushed around because that's how South Carolina plays, and we made some adjustments and ran them out of the gym. Mississippi State, we didn't run them out of the gym, but Ben and I have been talking about this elite defense. When we are a top 5 nationally ranked half-court defense, and when you can get stops, once we started getting rebounds, it kept us in that game, and it allowed us to win. We didn't play great offense against Mississippi State, really, and credit State. State was great in that game. But you're right. To see us go ahead.
37-29, they beat us in rebounds, and in the first half, they beat us terribly. They had
We
more offensive rebounds than we
yeah,
had rebounds in the first half. And
we
that's what
won
they
the
were
second
talking about.
half by 5. We won the second
Wow.
half by 5 after that.
That'll show you how bad the discrepancy was in the first when
Right.
the
It
game
was
finished with 37-29.
so it was brutal. I was screaming at the TV. I think all of us were probably.
And that's where you guys were going. And maybe if you guys missed it, that Chris Moore had one of those player only meetings like CBM did earlier and said we like there's I don't know some weird words people are throwing around buzzwords, but basically testing their manhood out there. The Mississippi State was eating their lunch, was bullying them, and they weren't being tough enough out there. And it was a dog fight, man. March is different. It was a war under the baskets, and we lost some rebounds very like on the nose, like a Mississippi State guy diving in and ripping the ball out of somebody else's hands. And we were not ready for that intensity. We should have been in March, but we figured it out in the second half. And it's been amazing to see three different games and 3 different ways to win. And it just gives you a little more hope in March because you're not going to play anybody easy. That we're kind of figuring it out. In the Mississippi State game, at probably in Mississippi State in Starkville, probably would have been a loss. We just wouldn't have figured it out in time. We wouldn't have hit the shots we needed to hit. But neutral, we stayed in it, and we won a close one.
I'm sick of us not getting credit. Like everybody needs to realize we played 3, not just NCAA tournament teams. We played what a 6 seed, a 6 seed, an 8 seed. I mean, these are second round of 32 / even harder than that games that we won 3 in a row of. So, I mean, yeah, sure, it wasn't Kentucky and Tennessee and Alabama because they weren't good enough to get out of the quarterfinals. But those are 3 quality teams that got seeded very nicely today for their metrics. So I'm not going to apologize for us being up to the physical challenge of beating those guys. And we did it in different ways, like you said. And I just think our depth continued. Bruce said it. Hey, if we can get that first one, it's just an advantage the way we play and to have 10 guys contributing. And you really started to see it. Of course, Florida lost a starter to a terrible injury today, which obviously played a role for them. But look, Walter Clayton's a great player. And when he's hitting all those shots to start the second half and that place went silent and
when he hit that three, when he hit that 3, and they were getting close. I think that's the 3 that brought us within about 5 points, maybe even closer.
It was
Me
a
and
single
Bam, we
pointer.
were like, oh no.
It was 45-44. And then guess who stepped up to make a difference in that exact moment?
Chris Moore.
The hero of the season, the man we all predicted would be the biggest impact on that championship game, Chris Moore.
Benched a few weeks ago, and a guy who's a senior and was ready for the moment. And I was not scared at all about him going back in the lineup because, dude, this is the best story arc for Chris Moore. Even weeks ago, it's like he accepted it. He was a good teammate through it, and now he gets to go back to playing again. He's playing with found money, and to see him not miss a shot from the free throw line, from 3, from 2, it's a good reminder.
College basketball. That's why we love college basketball. That you can have a guy like Chris Moore, and people. It sucks to get benched. It sucks to lose your time here and there. And coaches will always say, or mentors at least, like, bide your time, keep plugging away. You never know when the opportunity comes. This is just yet another example that Bruce can use, or anyone can use in your own lives. Keep plugging away, because all it takes is Lior going down like that, and bam, we are completely different. And this podcast is praising Simo and Chris Moore, man, that we were just done with wanting to play him at all, like just a couple weeks ago. So it's so fun to watch. Javon McCormick was like that years ago. Hopefully Simo can continue this in March. It's been really interesting. I don't know if you guys want to pick out some moments too that, like, there's been a couple players that have had these big step up moments to help us solidify these games. Dylan Cardwell had this amazing, I believe it was like 3 possessions in a row. He had some sort of score, then he had a big time block, and then another score. And I believe that's what took us over. I don't know if it was a South Carolina Mississippi State game, but it was one of those 2.
That was also a 1-point game in the Mississippi State game with about 5 minutes left, and it was a 5-point lead after that, and we were able to get home the rest of the way. You're right. That was a huge sequence there.
And he was not alone. I believe Chaney Johnson might have had one in that South Carolina game. I believe CBM had a couple too. Like, a couple of these guys, they just, like, not chaos agents necessarily, but they just light a little bit of fire under a team that might look a little stagnant. They go on their little single man runs for right here, or, like, they're not the starters or whatever. And it just changes the games completely from, like you said, a close game, a 1-point game that all it takes is one shot by the other team, and we're struggling, we're coming back, and then somebody goes off, and the complete vibe of the game, the complete trend of the game.
How about
Well,
Trey
hang on
today.
before we talk about Trey, because Trey's my guy. We have to talk about the math system because it continues to be flawless thus far.
Don't
We had
jinx
a
us like that, man.
we had a moment with 12 just under 12 minutes left where Auburn went up 12, and we all said it. I said it out loud to Jackson. Matt said it in the group chat. The math system is in effect, and part
I
of
love
why
that moment. I love that moment. We were all at the bar, and Ben turns over to me and goes, "Matt systems in effect." They go, "Matt systems in effect," and then he texted like 5 seconds later, "Matt system engaged."
And the incredible
Yes.
thing about the math system's predictive power is, again, you look at the minutes that are left and how much you're trailing by. In college basketball, especially these teams that don't rotate nearly as much as Auburn does, you can come back from those big deficits, but you have to play perfect ball, and you have to do it for 5 to 6 minutes at a time. So when you get to a situation where now you're looking at under 6 minutes and you're down six, you have to think that's two flawless 3 point possessions back to back with two stops, or three 2 point possessions, including three stops. So that's 6 possessions of basketball where you've got to play at your absolute best. And it's such a hard thing to string together
And then
those runs, especially late.
you can't have the other team immediately go on their run because
Exactly.
college basketball is all about runs. And you kind of, if you're that far behind, you kind of have to do this give and take, and you need to score 8 to their 4, and then another 8 to their 4, and that just, it gets really difficult. And that's another reason why the math system's so
The,
great.
the best thing we did, and to y'all's point, was we didn't give up the lead. We gave up some runs. They hit some shots. I think Florida hit their first 6 or 7 shots of the second half today. Everything's going in, but we never let up control. And we were entering the down the stretch point. We blew out Florida by the down the stretch, but Mississippi State, and when Florida got dicey, we kept that lead. And we had that position going late, which Ben always, I think maybe the better thing than the mat system is, can you get to the last TV timeout in the pole position, basically? Because then it really does take a lot. If you're up 2 possessions or something, if you take care of the ball and hit free throws, you're probably going to be safe. So it was cool to see that play out. I was kind of bummed, honestly, yesterday after it was over. I was like, dang, we only won by 7. Could we have not hit one more three? But it was great to see us. It was great to see us have the goods. Like I think I'm just proud for these players. We had what it took in each of these games to respond the way we needed to respond. And we got to give credit to the scouts, guys. Like our defenses half court were phenomenal in all 3 of these games. And all of our assistant coaching scout that we've talked to on this podcast, which I think is my favorite part of our whole experience doing this, they all had one of these games and they knocked it out of the freaking park. And I just credit to those coaches.
Well, look, I mean, Florida, the past 2 games, scored 100 points.
Yeah.
Alabama, Texas A&M, did not reach 70 today. Crazy. You can blame it on the 4 days of – look, I hate that argument because NC State played 5-5,
Right.
won, beat Duke, North Carolina. When we did it back in 2019, we did – like, I hate that argument that, like, oh, you – like, these guys are ball players. Like, it doesn't really affect them that much, right?
My
Like,
favorite is some guy in front of me. Florida missed like one shot in the first half short, and he's like, when somebody starts missing short, the legs. Okay, it's.
I
8
think
minutes left
Florida
in the
looked a
first
little
half.
tired. I think Florida looked a little tired
I
after that.
mean,
I think they had a
possible.
little burst in the second half to start, and then when we came right back at them, I think that their legs started feeling a little heavier.
I mean, it could be said, like, a lot of teams are – look, like the NC State thing is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like, 5-5, like, most teams don't practice 5 days in a row. Like, they always take the 5th day off or the 4th day off. Like, crazy. So the fact that they were on their 4th – like, I think we talked about it. It's only been done 4 times in the SEC, winning 4-4, and us being one of them in 2019. So it's very rare. So you have to be, kind of cognizant of that. But
your argument would be, Ryan, that it's rare because you have to beat 4 quality teams in 4 days. It's not maybe as rare because
correct.
You're tired. You have to play so many good teams to win it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they played Alabama, who plays the Olay defense. So they weren't being rushed full court press all the time. Like, they put up over 100 against them. And yeah, Texas A&M may be a little physical, but they had a fairly easy path, if you will, relative to what some other teams like us who had to go up against these really physical teams. The argument that Auburn had an easy path to this championship is so dumb to me because Alabama had an easier one last year, for
And
being honest.
we played the toughest quarterfinal too. So like
Yeah.
I don't really want to hear
And
like
look, we rose to the occasions of these physical games. Kentucky did not. Tennessee did not. They got absolutely roasted from tip off. And then, Alabama just does not play defense anymore. So look, like that, those arguments, regarding physicality showed so much in this tournament. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think it's a sign of things to come for NCAA tournament that bodes well for us because we have some pretty physical matchups potentially coming up here soon in our side of the bracket
yep.
that I think was a great test for us, and we overcame that. We saw at times this year that our physicality got tested. The at Florida game, which I still think is an anomaly. We've talked about it. I think it's an anomaly. We rose to the occasion today, and we saw what we looked like when we want to play physical. But there's going to be another test coming up here soon where we need to be physical. If we win against Yale, I've never seen Yale play this year, to be quite honest with you. I have no idea what to expect.
Is this
But
a good
San
time to
Diego
transition
State,
into our scout?
Well,
yeah,
I got one thing I want to say here. We got a couple.
lost him.
Gib Pearson, Chris Thomas, Kevin Poindexter, Mr. Beautiful. No Pocket Watch. Pocket Watch, we miss you. We recorded different times. Do me a favor, guys. We don't usually ask for reviews on podcasts. We don't have any ads, really. We do this for fun. It's just a fan podcast. But this is going to be one of the most listened to podcasts for sure. We just won a championship. Do us a favor. However you're listening right now, via Apple Podcasts, via YouTube on the live, if you're not already on the YouTube, go do that because it's fun. If you just subscribe to us, it will notify you guys when we go live, and it's a lot of fun. But if you're listening on the podcast, go in there, copy it, and send it to a friend. We all have another Auburn friend that would love to listen to an Auburn basketball podcast. Do us a favor, do it right now, and we'll get back into it now. But
What about and if you watch on YouTube, you get to see Ben's great background, which is a great reference of cultural significance in Auburn.
Yeah, there you go. I was about to say, move your head to the left a little.
I also wanted to mention before we get too far off, this really sums it up, guys. 4 SEC titles now, 2 regular season, 2 tournament for Bruce. In the previous
Final Four,
111 seasons before that, 4 titles. 111 seasons of basketball, of Auburn basketball. We've already matched that. It's pretty wild. Yeah, give us that man with his trophy. We need to add to the graphic bin after this. We're going to add to it.
I love that. Whoever decided to make that picture
done.
is great. Very iconic picture right there. You'll see framed up one day. Hopefully, we just keep adding to it, and that'd be an even amazing if he keeps winning trophies. An even more amazing video graphic of adding the trophies to all the pictures.
Well, this is where all my money goes to. Tigers Unlimited. So they're the ones who came up with the photo.
Mr. Beautiful said Auburn defense just allowed 62 points per game over the last 3 games. Incredible defense out there.
I mean, we're top. We're again, and I mean maybe this is our transition point, but we finished the year 4th in KenPom nationally. We finished the year 5th in the net nationally. We finished the year in the top, I believe, in the top 10, both offensive and defensive efficiency. We're in the pentahexagon, whatever shape of excellence, which we'll see how that plays.
The trapezoid of excellence.
Trapezoid of excellence. But I mean, I just think we need to step back. We're 27-7, guys. We're the best record in the league. We won the most games in the league. And this has been a really great year. Quite frankly, I know some of you guys were higher on this team, but I don't know if any of us quite thought that this group of players could be this good on both ends. It's pretty phenomenal, and it says a lot. The coaches are always pushing back to these players. Bruce said after the game when he had the mic in the celebration that this is the most. This is the group that they enjoy each other's company the most of any of his teams, and that they take the most coaching, which I think shows up in the scout. We talk about the scouts being great. The scouts are only good if the players hear it, internalize it, and execute it. So I think all these non-verbal, not non-verbals, these intangible things about basketball that people might think are silly, they really matter. And I've told somebody in Bridgestone this week, I think Bruce just gets more out of what he has. I just think he consistently gets more out of the talent level that he has. And this year is one of the top examples of that.
If I could nitpick a couple stats here, I think that is interesting. 5 turnovers in the South Carolina game, and we shot 47% from 3. Mississippi State game, our tightest game, 15 turnovers, shot 31% from 3. And in our winning championship game, 12 turnovers, 31% from 3. I think that's just something we need to keep an eye on a bit. We only have, it could potentially be just one more game, but that Mississippi State game, if we had to pick why it was so close and what was so irritating, sure, we lost the rebound battle pretty badly. We got sloppy. 15 turnovers, and then we still didn't shoot well, either 31%. And this game against Florida, we still blew them out. Still didn't shoot that well either. Still kind of high turnovers. So we need the guards to step up and hit some of these open threes, or somebody to step up and hit some of these open threes. And people are getting a little handsy, a lot of active hands, getting in there, a couple lazy passes. But we're going to have to tighten it up even just a little. I know we just won a championship. We're going to tighten it up just a little bit more.
I didn't see many open threes the last couple of days. I don't know about you.
Maybe you're right.
We took a couple.
We made time. I'm just saying those two teams did a better job. South Carolina, we really blitzed and moved the ball so well that we were given open looks whenever we wanted it. That was not the case. But again, that's the beauty of this team, is that we can win so many different ways with so many different guys. And I mean, the point guard play has been a talk for us. I forget what the number is, but it was something like 13 points a game total if you combine Aiden and Trey, 6 assists, 1 turnover. That's winning ball.
I want to have this conversation because I was in a heated text thread today with another guy. Because I said, I felt like Aiden played great today.
Me too.
And he was like, what do you define as great? And I said, he didn't turn the ball over.
Yep.
He brought the ball up the court well. He did not force any shots that he should not have forced. And he got to the paint a little bit, and he created some offense. And look, that's what his argument was, Aiden's a 5-star, All-American, McDonald's All-American. He should. I'm like, look, I think early on we felt like he should be heroic in a lot of these things. But as the season progressed, college basketball is different as a whole. It's more physical. It's much more of an older game. So you see a lot of these younger players not shining as much as they did in the past because of that. So Aiden, since, I can't remember what game, someone help me out here, has really figured out his shot selection, not getting the ball out of his hands when the shot clock is low. And I think that could be coaching. We don't know. But he did just fine today. And that type of offensive play, and combined with Trey and his abilities, is what we need to win. That is what this team needs right now. We don't need Aiden chunking up, 3-second, 2-second shot clock shots that we saw earlier in SEC play. They have taken that, they figured it out. He got to the lane a little better. I think he was great today.
He was really bad yesterday.
He was
really bad.
He was very bad, and that's because they threw physicality at him.
And this is the one where we figured out our finishing lineup is starting lineup with Trey, which I liked better.
Which is fine.
I think it's going to depend on the game. We've been doing it all year.
I think
it does depend on the game. Today was a great game for both of them. But yesterday, yes, Aiden was after that one turnover he had. I remember at one point in the game, he drove down, he just lost the ball or something like that. It was all right, this is not his type of game, at all.
But the genius of Bruce Pearl, though, because I'm sitting around people who are yank him out, yank him out, yank him out. Bruce won't do it. He did take him out a couple possessions later. He is so good at that. Chaney has been gushing about Bruce. He always believes in me. He always tells me to shoot. He always tells you hear these guys when they get coached by other coaches, and they're almost blown away by Bruce. And no, we signed you because we think you're good, and so that's why he's never going to be. Even when Trey played terrific today, but he had 3 horrific passes.
Oh, yes.
Now, but he was good overall. But again, you're just very rarely ever going to see Bruce do that panic, and we joke about it with the timeout sometimes. He doesn't. He really is conscious of how it affects guys. And Aiden, I think, to coming back 24 hours later today, I agree with you. I thought he played a really solid point guard for us on a team with so many other weapons. All year, our point guards have been moving the ball, taking care of the ball. And
that's what they need.
Doing that. Yeah.
Everyone has this Jared Harper thing in their mind. Get it out. That not every team is going to have that moving forward.
to be fair, Aiden had to get that out of his head also. And you mentioned like
That's
when
fine.
we turned the corner, it was after that bye week, in my opinion, because what happened was he thought he was a star. He was shooting us out of games. It was crazy. He thought he was a star. We had all these other great players he just needed to get the ball to. Then it got to a point where it got so bad he could not seem to hit a shot at all. People were really all over him, including Bruce. He was sitting him down and things like that. And then it came that bye week, and a couple games before that, he wasn't shooting at all. I think he had a game where he didn't even attempt a shot. I think he was in his own head that, hey, I screwed up. Now I'm not shooting at all. You don't make shoot. I won't shoot at all. Then bye week happened. Jalen got hurt, and they said, actually, we still need you to stay engaged. We actually do need you to shoot some. And then we kind of smoothed it out a bit. We hit somewhere in the middle.
Who started the second half with a dagger?
Oh yeah, I was about to say that was a clutch shot.
You mentioned like he played good today. For me, Aiden playing good is when I look up and I kind of forgot anything that Aiden was up to. Like he missed one that I remember thinking was a good shot, and I'm cool with him taking. He hit another one that was really a big deal for him to hit. I mean, you got to hit. It's just smoothing out a bit. Like I rarely feel like he has a bad shot.
People were on him, and you're right. Shot selection is really important. People were on him around me yesterday at the Mississippi State game before he started struggling because he missed a couple open threes. And I'm like, I don't know what y'all are watching. Auburn's gonna shoot open threes. Like I don't care who it is. If Chris Moore's open, he's gonna shoot. Like,
and our players still believe that every time he shoots it, it's going in. They say it all the time because he does it in practice.
In warm up, by the way, I'm not sure I've ever seen. I'm not kidding. I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody shoot as smoothly as him in a warm up. Like it's unbelievable.
I want nothing more than him to come back next year and just absolutely light it up. Yeah, because I just want to stick it to the haters. I do. Like I really do.
I'm with it. I've probably been the hardest guy on this podcast about Aiden. I would love for him to come back, work on whatever he needs to work on in the offseason and come back and be a killer. Because like you're right, he looks like he should be a killer, and he just has not been, and he's smoothed it out, and credit to him. Hey, he has smoothed out this game, and other than Mississippi State game, which was a bit of a struggle, the ball started sticking in his handle because they freaked him out. They pressed up on him. They were physical with him. So he had a couple weird turns, but so did Trey. The whole team was turning the ball over a bit. So as long as we don't hit another one of those really physical Texas A&M, Mississippi State style, we should be okay with those two guys.
But hey, like against Yale, he go out and hit 20. Like you don't know. Like that Baylor game is always still there. Like I thought about that at one point. Like there was one possession today in the second half. Shot clock was going down. He had a step back, had a lot of separation, and the ball went in and out. And I was like, man, that would have been so sweet for him to hit that, because you get to see like it's starting to click a little bit. Like that play where the guy broke his leg, like he hit the full court layup. Like there's some things there that you see positive trends that he's undersized. Like, let's be honest here. The physicality of some of these guards, like they're throwing, bigger guards at him to bully that physicality. Mississippi State did it very well. And if we ever were to move on to play UConn, they would 100% do that. So, he had to man up a little bit, and I think he did today, which he did not do at Florida. So there's some things there that I think he is learning it a lot and is doing much better. And it's just part of the game today. Like freshmen aren't what they were 6 years ago. People have to get that out of their head. People have to get Jared Harper people forget. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here. People forget Jared Harper, his freshman and sophomore year. People forget that. He was the exact same.
Yep.
He was terrible his freshman year.
We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep talking about point guards and these players because we're going to talk about brackets now. Ben's been chomping at the bit to talk about these NCAA brackets, and we can go back to SEC some too, but I want to get to Ben's bracket breakdown here because I know he has to leave here in a minute. But let's get a little drum roll, please, of our NCAA March Madness.
We're dancing.
We're dancing. And we got a 4 seed against Yale in Spokane, Washington. It's not the seed we were hoping for.
Every Alabama team.
Every Alabama team.
It's not only not the seed that we were hoping for, it's one of the worst possible draws that we could have gotten. I mean, we are in here with 3 of last year's Final Four teams. We're in here with, I believe, 3 other conference champions, and we're in here with the number 1 overall seed, UConn. Yale just won today on a buzzer beater over Brown. They're led by a couple of names you're going to get familiar with. The first one is Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf plays power forward for them. He's their leading scorer, averaging 14.5 points a game. But he's a little bit more like Janai. He should be listed as a true center. I don't know why they haven't listed his board. He's 7 feet 255. So that's some of that size that we're always a little scared of dealing with Janai. The good news is I think Janai can cook him one-on-one. We did have a common foe with the Yale Bulldogs this year. They also played the University of Penn, beat them twice. We were able to beat Penn in Neville Arena, and Janai absolutely roasted them. And then Bez Mbang is their star guard. He leads them with 4.2 assists per game and 1.9 steals. So he's like a combination of Aiden and Katie Johnson. But the good news for us is Yale's top 3 players all play 30 plus minutes a game. That includes both of the guys I just mentioned and another guard, John Polakidis, who averages 12.9 points a game as their second leading scorer. Now, overall as a team, Yale's not doing anything crazy. They're only scoring 75.6 points a game, but their 3-point percentage is fairly impressive. They're shooting about 35% as a team. So they're right there with us. It could turn into a shooter's battle if we don't run them off the line.
Is there anything, what I'm always scared about in a matchup like this, 4-13, you see an upset. You don't see it every year at 4-13 like the way you do 5-12, but you always worry that a team you're going to play from a smaller conference like this does something exceptionally well. They either slow the game down, especially, or they run especially fast, or they're, like you talked about, 3-point shooting. They hit an incredible amount of 3-point shootings, and they just so happen to get us uncomfortable. Is there anything about Yale they have a specialty of any sort? I hope they don't, honestly.
No, they are actually kind of a more traditional build. They go through their big man. Their big man is their leading scorer. They finished second in the Ivy League, but they were the number 4 seed, I believe, in the Ivy League tournament. So them making is not a huge surprise. They have limited competition against tournament teams, but most of them they lost. Vermont, who I believe is a 16 seed and won their conference. Vermont, they lost to on the road 66-65. They also lost to Kansas by 15 points. They were at the field house out there in Lawrence. So obviously no surprise and no shame in losing that. And then they did lose an overtime game to end their season to Brown. So they got a little bit of revenge in that conference championship. They're a team that's won a lot of games, but it's been kind of an up and down season for them. They have lost 3 of their last 8. And then prior to that, they were on, I believe, a 9-game win streak. So just like us, they had a real meat middle of their season when they got into conference play where they were doing really well. But just a solid traditional basketball team overall. I do think we match up really well with them. The key again is going to be our depth. If we're healthy and we're active early, I think we can definitely stretch away from this one.
If you're going to see the highlights before our game starts with them, they won on a buzzer beater in the Ivy League championship against Brown. They just worked the ball up the court and hit a little floater with like a second left on the clock. So you're going to see that. On the other side of the bracket in Spokane, if we win against Yale, we'll play either number 12 seed UAB or 5 seed San Diego State. We know San Diego State went to the Final Four in the last year or two. It'd be really interesting to run into UAB. I bet you there's a decent amount of Auburn and UAB mixed families that are looking at this and going, Spokane, I don't know. Both our teams are in the same bracket. Do we risk it? I wonder how expensive it is to go to Spokane, but it's just going to be hard to get to Spokane. Why is there a game in Spokane? It's like, all right, Seattle, I get it. Spokane, really? Is this like just a play to be like, all right, Gonzaga, we'll give you a home game every couple of years here. But if that goes on, then we play either Northwestern, Florida Atlantic, Stetson, or UConn. So that's the other side. UConn is the overall number 1 seed. I don't know how we ended up in their bracket, but that one would be.
As we were the second to last 4 seed.
Second, it's insane that everyone's projecting us as a 3 seed. Just no credit at all for winning your SEC tournament. But we've seen it over and over again. I don't know why we keep getting tricked, honestly. These committees the last couple of years have not cared at all about the results in the tournaments. I wish they would just come out and say that, because I love the tournaments and they're great. And we had a great time today and we've had a great time in the past. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say it, that you really don't care about those results, and give us the reason why you don't care about the results. but it clearly didn't matter. Like, there's no way there's 15 teams better than us. If the AP poll came out tomorrow, we would be number 11 or number 12, maybe even a top 10 team after what we just did. Kim Palm has us as a top 5 team. Ben, thanks for coming. War Eagle, we'll be doing some more pods soon, hopefully. The net has us, I believe, as a top 5 team. Also, it shocked the ESPN guys a bit. It shocked all the Lenardis and all the bracketology people. I don't know what happened there. I don't want.
Kansas has been abysmal the past few weeks. But yeah, hey, let's grade them. Honestly, it showed me that they really took into effect regular season quad 1
It's
wins.
the quads.
That had to have been it. Like the fact that we just won 2, I believe, in the past 2 days did not matter whatsoever because they probably had this figured out. But
It doesn't help that the Alabama AD is on the committee. They also put Kentucky as a 3 seed, which seems a little shocking, which feels very ESPN blue blood narrative before this tournament start. Hey, Kentucky can win this whole thing. Hey, Kentucky can win the SEC tournament. They're setting up. They're coming together. They're going to win the SEC tournament, losing the first game. And now you still hear by the ESPN guys when they were doing their little quick bracket of like who they had. Several of them had Kentucky in their Final Four. Oh, it's smart. They've built for March. They've brought it up. Well, they weren't built for SEC tournament, apparently. I guess they're built for the NCAA one, but not the SEC one.
Nah, maybe not anymore because they always bow out so early. The past few years, it's been a trend. It's just crazy to me. Bruce called this out too, that there are so many sites that they could send teams in this area to, but yet Auburn, Alabama, and UAB, they sent to the farthest possible place you could go in the United States of America to play potentially 2 games. And just like, if they were to put this in Memphis, you would have brought so much revenue to that area to like, no one's going to go to Spokane at all. Like, who is
Here's the teams that are in Spokane. It's San Diego State. They're not coming. That's really far away even for them. They're at the very bottom of California. UAB can't make it there either. Auburn can't make it there. Yale's the other side of the country. And then on the other side, you got St. Mary's, who's, I believe, in California, right? So we'll see if they make it. We'll see if they make it there. Grand Canyon, nope. Alabama, nope. Charleston, nope. What are they doing? Why did you put us in Spokane? It's if
crazy.
you know if you travel a decent amount too, it's so stupid too to put it in Spokane instead of Seattle. Like if you're trying to give like that Northwestern something, put it in Portland or Seattle because I can fly directly into Seattle or Portland. Can you imagine having to fly into Seattle and then getting a rental car and driving into Spokane? That additional expense. Come on,
no one wants
to hang out in Spokane.
The flight prices from Birmingham to Spokane are not great.
No,
dude, they're all like.
Because you have to connect at this itty bitty region. It's like somebody in Seattle trying to fly into Birmingham. It's just not. It's not going to work. You know.
Look, guys. Last year we played.
I know what you're gonna say.
Look, it's all silly. Everything you're saying is right. And Bruce said this. He's like, "Is this like punishment for us getting to play in Birmingham last year when we were an 8 seed?" Like, because that was a pretty big advantage to play Houston, the 1 seed in Birmingham. And we almost pulled it off and went to the Sweet 16. We did this. Now, maybe not quite that far, but we had to go crazy far for everything in the Final Four run. It is what it is. And I don't hate our draw to the Sweet 16. I know, Ryan's been saying all the Final Four teams, which is true, but I don't think San Diego State and FAU are what they were last year.
I would absolutely, if we're to beat Yale, well, let's not take anything for granted here. If we're to beat Yale, I would love for UAB to upset San Diego State because they're not the UAB that we saw early on in Bruce's tenure. This team is okay. They're not great. They had some really bad losses this year. And yeah, San Diego State, they're not what they were last year. I mean, who knows? But I
hate to play anyone that's in our state that has that chip on your shoulder, that has those relationships. There's just a certain
you're not going to get a better round of 32 game than UAB. You're just not. You're not going to get a better.
If it was local, then maybe yeah. But like, I just feel like it's a completely different thing in a tournament. that far. Like
Yeah.
they're not thinking about it. They're not.
It's all relative. It's all relative. So I think the thing people lose with the tournament is, first of all, the one thing I feel deep in my soul is that I hate that we're in UConn's bracket in the Sweet 16. I don't like that. Somebody had to draw it. I think all of us would agree maybe we should have been a 3 and not a 4.
Yep.
Well, guess what? All that gets you is a Sweet 16 matchup with one of the 2 seeds, Tennessee. And look, I'm not saying those are easier than, I think UConn's probably the best team in the country. Don't get me wrong. But the reality is, if you make it to the Sweet 16, you're probably playing somebody good unless they get upset. So, hey, we can cheer our guts
I'd
out
feel
for
so much.
UConn to somehow lose.
I'd
before
feel
we-
so much better against these 2 seeds than UConn, man. I do not feel good
Oh,
against
dude,
UConn.
I don't want to see Iowa State.
Marquette, Iowa State.
Mm-mm.
Who else is in here?
I mean, I'd like to see Marquette, but not Iowa State.
Yeah, we could have gotten Marquette.
Tennessee.
Tennessee and Arizona.
So
I
just
but look, like we saw last year, like people see brackets come out and they flip out. Like in chaos the past 2 years has ensued, right? Houston beats us, and then they get absolutely smoked in the Sweet 16, like against Miami. Like these things happen. FAU as an 8 seed last year went to the Final Four. They had to beat a number 1 seed. Like these things happen. So
was North Carolina the overall number 1 seed in 2019? I believe they were.
we played Sweet 16.
Yeah, I believe we had to play
It wasn't
the overall
Kansas,
seed.
right?
Kansas was a 4.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
North Carolina was the 1 seed, and I believe they were the number 1 overall seed. I could be wrong, but I believe they were.
was it Duke? No, it wasn't Duke.
I
That
could be wrong.
That was Zion's year.
My point is, like, again, we can't compare everything to the Final 14. That was special. That was very unique. But we got a way worse draw in 2019 than this. And
It's Auburn sports, baby. You got to do it the hard way every time.
Gotta earn it. And honestly,
it was Duke.
We just took
Duke.
Jackson, I mean, do you take any solace in the fact that, like, you're not playing a P5 first weekend? I mean, I know San Diego State's good. San Diego State's a really good program with a really good coach. I'm not trying to say that's not.
I kind of put San Diego State in that already because they've been to Final Four and they've recruited so well. But no, like I feel that a little
that's
bit.
the Chad Baker Mazzara game, by the way.
Oh, a little.
He played there. So.
A little reunion there of the old teams. So.
Hey, Duke was the number 1 overall seed in 2019.
Okay, my bad.
And
North Carolina with it.
They were the 3. Virginia was the 2.
Okay, so they were the 3. Okay,
so we played the top. We played the top 8. We played Kentucky, Virginia, and North Carolina that run. So
I guess
that's absurd.
You don't really need any more motivation to win in March. No matter what seed we were going to get, but I think it will be a little something there with getting the 4 seed from Bruce to be like the disrespect. No one's ever believed me. They didn't believe me in the SEC tournament. They're still talking about these other teams. They put you as a 4 seed. Like, come out with your hair on fire against Yale and whoever we play after that, San Diego State or UAB. They don't believe against UConn. They don't believe you got the scrap. You bounced around CBM. Jedi Broom, they think you're too small and too slow. Get out there and be physical. Let's go. Let's go down some nuts.
If we are fortunate enough to get to the Sweet 16 and we have to play UConn, you cannot draw up a better coach and a better staff for that situation to go into Boston with all UConn fans. Look, that's one of those games you just take your shot, see if you're good enough to beat that team on that day. I'm just telling you, that is a great setup for Bruce Pearl with this kind of team. And I think we would.
It'll be a home game for UConn. It'll be a home game for UConn up here for sure. We were already looking at it, me and Ben, on how to get to Boston to watch that, but I don't know if my bank account can handle it right now. It's still 5 hours by train to Boston, and then you have to get a hotel, and then you got to get the tickets. But
we got to get it.
Oh, Matt.
And I think, it would be a tough draw, but hey, at least you're not in Brooklyn, where currently right now UConn and Duke.
Let's cheer for UAB. Come on,
Matt. You froze up for a minute, by the way, Matt. But just so you know, but you're back now. But it feels like, I don't know, maybe the narratives are like, I'm the guy that loves a narrative. It feels like we are the misfits, right? We got a bunch of interesting misfits on this team, and that's been Bruce's thing the whole time anyways. Like you said, getting a lot out of guys that maybe weren't as much as you thought you could get out of them or whatever. But it feels like we got a little band of misfits going. KD, CBM, a guy from D2 like Chaney Johnson, a Cardwell that's just growing into himself. Janai comes from the little guys
Chris Moore.
too. Chris, it feels like we got a band of misfits that's ready for a bit of a Cinderella run. I'm telling UConn is the big dogs, the Iceland of the Mighty Ducks, the Russia hockey team. I feel like there's something there. I don't know, like maybe everybody thinks they're the good guys or whatever, but I feel like we're a bit of the Rebel Alliance in this tournament here.
If you're looking for the positives, other than the UConn thing, which is a real thing, the positives are the metrics would favor us against almost every team in the country. I mean, it really would. And I don't think it's an accident that we have 26 double-digit wins. Like, I totally agree with Ryan earlier when he talked about the Tennessee game. When we went in and played in Knoxville like that, if you can play in Knoxville and play that kind of game and be that good on both ends, you can play with anybody. And I just think we need to – there's going to be a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth about the bracket and the draw, and it sucks. It sucks that our fans can't – We'll be very limited. We can't do what we did this week.
There won't be. There's no. I mean, Spokane, then Boston, then Phoenix. There's
I have
no
some
good.
friends in Seattle. I have some friends in Seattle who are Auburn alums. They'll be there, I'm sure. Like there'll be some people.
I love the little alumni clubs everywhere. When I went to the Final Four for that Minnesota, because I always said I'd do it. I always said I'd do it if we ever went to the Final Four, and we did it, so I went. It was a Minnesota, and there was a Minnesota Auburn club, a Minneapolis Auburn club. And it was kind of fun. I got the T-shirt somewhere that fit me. I wish I wore more. The Snow Tigers, as they call themselves there. I'd love to see the Spokane or Seattle Auburn club representing out there. I'm sure they'll have a little section. Connor Feemster in the chat said, just got home from Nashville. We won the whole thing. I want to hear a little bit, Matt. I know we just talked about bracket, and feel free to talk more about brackets. I want to hear more about what it was like as an Auburn fan over the last 3 days in Nashville.
Dude,
it was really cool. Go ahead, Ryan.
I wish that was me last year.
Ryan had a rough luck last year. Really special. I think the root of it. Well, first of all, tickets were going to be expensive. The thing that's changed the most is other people besides Kentucky being into this now. Like Tennessee, when they have a good team, they're into it. Alabama's not really into it at all, honestly. They're kind of there. But just the fact that everybody wants to come to Nashville, right, for a week, and hang out, I think is the biggest thing.
It's the capital of SEC sports now, right? We all know as younger people, it used to be Atlanta. The older alums at Auburn used to go to Atlanta. I moved to Nashville out of college at Auburn, right at that kind of turning of the tide a little bit. I was telling people I took a CPA internship there. I was like, guys, Nashville is the next city. Nashville's cool. Atlanta kind of sucks, honestly. Nashville's cool, and everybody started moving to Nashville. And now we have a huge Nashville Auburn club. Yeah. And it's the same with everybody else. All the other alums, if you want to live in a fun city in the South and have a decent career, Nashville's where it's at. So you end up having all these SEC fans there. Just go on to Broadway on a regular Saturday night, not even a sports night, and you will see all the different SEC teams represented in polos out there. So even if they're not the big basketball fan base, they're all moving there. The Mississippi State grads, the Ole Miss grads, the Georgia grads, all these people are moving to Nashville. And so you're just going to have that automatic base of fans that want to go to these. And then on top of that, like you said, people are making weekends out of it now.
A lot of people. And, the interesting thing, we have not had a double bye very often. And when we have, it hasn't gone well, as Ryan can attest. So the interesting thing for me as a local was Friday was kind of the one I was most on the fence about. I was planning to do a Friday, Sunday thing, go on Friday, and I could take some time off work. And then if we make Sunday, I'll go. Friday was by far the most expensive ticket because you get a doubleheader. We were in the Tennessee bracket. And so, first of all, unbelievable feeling walking into Bridgestone in the last 5 minutes of that Tennessee-Mississippi State game. Just for those of you who've listened to the pod, man, I respect Tennessee and what they've done. They've won a lot of games just like we have. It was amazing to go into Bridgestone, watching them lose by 20 to Mississippi State, and then going to watch our team play.
As much as I just got done with that soliloquy about how there's all kind of SEC fans, Tennessee is still the majority in the city. And so something about that team, like Rick Barnes, I respect the teams. The fans, the Tennessee fans, not as much. They're not fun to be around. The
Oh.
local radio stations, not as much. So yeah, it feels good when Tennessee goes down when you're living there.
Terrific for me, right? Because they all leave because they're mad. And I go I went with a friend of mine and we went and sat in the lower level because nobody was there really. It was some Auburn people and very few South Carolina people, and we watched Auburn turn it on there. And then everybody's like, okay, well that was great. We're in the semifinals. We don't have to play Tennessee. That's exciting. But then the Friday night was the move that shifted everything. When Kentucky goes down to A&M, that changes the entire dynamic of the weekend because Kentucky fans are crazy, like Brian's documented. And then Alabama loses to Florida. And so it's a perfect day for Auburn, right? I mean, Friday, I will always remember Friday of this tournament as being like, oh my goodness, we won. We took care of our business and all of our rivals lost. And we don't
So
have
much
to
fun,
play.
man.
Incredible.
Great day of basketball.
So then it's like, well, okay, we're in the semifinals. Maybe tickets are going to nosedive. And sure enough, they nosedive. And I would say Saturday, there were it went from maybe 1,000 Auburn fans on Friday, during the day on Friday, to maybe 4,000 on Saturday, which was an advantage over Mississippi State. But you also had Florida and A&M, a few stragglers, and mostly Kentucky fans still. And we take care of that. We survived that game. And then, like I said, I mentioned with Bruce, it's just the onslaught of like, oh, we're in the finals, and we're in the finals against Florida or Texas A&M, and we have the opportunity to do something as a crowd in a neutral site environment that we have never done, I would argue, probably in Auburn basketball history. And I still did not expect it to be what it was today. It was truly one of those moments. We've had so many the last few years when you're just standing there in the stands today, and it's like, it's surreal. It's surreal for where this program was to be and to see the love and like the way fans have connected with this staff and the way they coach basketball. It's so much bigger than just the winning, right? Like we've built, like Jackson, you were on this from day one, even before we started this podcast, like years ago. Like we're building we're having to create all this on our own. And now the last few years, we're starting to see the fruit of it. So just in people's conversations and people's willingness to spend money and travel, I don't know if you saw the Tiger Walk videos at the Westin downtown. Every day. I didn't go. I was busy.
Which people are just starting to build it into their calendars. And
Yeah.
My life personally, and we talk on here, is a little more spontaneous. I don't have kids. I like live a little more on the edge or whatever. But a lot of people got kids. They got family obligations, and the other sport, they have planned their calendar out years in advance that this is how it's going to be. And basketball, they have not done that, but they're starting to. They on a whim got to go to that championship, or you win a ring every other year, so people start putting on their calendar, hey, maybe don't go on that trip that weekend. Maybe that's the weekend we do a different trip, kind of thing. You're seeing it. The bricks are building.
On the road trips, we've talked about the road games on our post-game pods all the time. Man, it's great to hear the AU after free throws. It's great to hear the chants. It's great to hear the things.
Shout out to the AU, man. We were doing that in the bar too, and like that's becoming at first I thought it was a little cheesy, but like you're right, something about that away AU, and you hear it because it's kind of quiet after the people stop yelling. It just feels nice.
It sounded great today, man. Like with that many people doing it and being into it, it was solid. So it was a great experience. Like obviously fun to be in that. SEC tournaments in Nashville till like 2036 now. So for all of you, make the trip if you've never done it. It's super, like Ryan and I have talked, like the move is really to buy the whole tournament book if you can swing it and spend 3 or 4 nights in Nashville. Like just be here. Put it on your list. Like I've been fortunate to go to a lot of great sporting events. Bridgestone's a great arena. It's a perfect setup with the way downtown is. Like if you haven't been, come check it out. I'll stop my Nashville commercial, but the Auburn Club here together. Is incredible too. Great job by the Nashville Club.
It's all squeezed together right there. If you've never been to Nashville and gone to Bridgestone, Bridgestone's right on the corner of all the action. If you're the kind of person that does like to go out and have an experience on the bar life scene, it's super fun. It's a little wild for sure, but it's worth it. And you're right there in the mix of everything. And they have the Auburn North Bar up there now too. You can go up to and walk from there over. So this, like you said, the Nashville advertisement here. But hey, we sat through a Huntsville advertisement during that one game, so you can sit through a little Nashville one.
I gotta be honest, I can't believe the Auburn North thing actually worked. Like I thought it was being a little weird and like
so many people drove up from Auburn today. Like
It's a thing though, and
an
like the Auburn
absurd
Club
amount.
guy made that happen. So shout out to him, man.
Big
It's pretty
shout out.
amazing.
I'm watching the CBS Sports Network fill out the brackets right now. And I was laughing over here because it's the most chalk thing I've ever seen in my life. And that's just like, well, they're just overthinking it. But like, did y'all remember in 2019 when we got the 5 seed? We didn't care. I was just thinking about like I didn't look at the bracket and like,
Mhm.
I was so hyped to win the SEC. I was so hyped about that. And like, it was what it was after that point. And then we did our thing. But like, why don't I have that perspective this time around? Like
Because
I
we
We're
don't
play
know.
better.
greedy.
We're
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 greedy.
better. We're
We're
better than
greedy.
that team. That team didn't play as good as this team did. And like
That
you
that
look
team
around.
ruined my perspective on everything, I think.
True. They set the bar. I was mad about that. I was different from you. I was thrilled. I was in that for that championship game. It was incredible. Probably one of the best basketball games I've ever been to. Um, I was pissed. I was like, our reward for winning our last, because it was 4 before the tournament,
I remember being pretty angry too that we got set
and
up in that blue blood
and it wasn't the
bloodbath.
seed exactly. It wasn't the seed. It was the fact that it was going to be probably the most dangerous mid-major that had won 25 games in a row.
Now that one, yes, that one I remember. I was like, did they play
Kansas,
12? They played 12 people.
Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, which now it made it all sweeter, the fact that we went through all of them and we came out on the other side. So I mean, that's how you have to
It just feels like
you have
every
to
year, every
shift
time
it.
we go to get the committee, we go a seed down from what everyone's projecting us from, which is really annoying. But Barbara Wingard in the chat says, "War Eagle, I love this team, very special." Agreed. We love having new chats in here saying stuff. I wanted to ask, they cut the screen off pretty quick on TV for the confetti and the speeches and all that. Anything from the trophy ceremony worth the noting?
Nothing major. Bruce obviously played to the crowd and said, "Man, I think Ryan was right. The guys really appreciated the support and the fact that they get to play in front of that." Um, he talked about his dad, which I didn't know, not watching the game on TV, that he was kind of shedding some tears. I didn't know his dad had passed away in August. So I think that was part of his emotion there. And then I just think he loves these kids. I think the takeaway and watching them celebrate and do snow angels and the confetti and KD walking around with his shirt off. I think he had to be told to put a shirt on to cut the net down. Like just the personality to
Is
see
he the
CBM.
JR? He's the JR Smith of this Auburn basketball team.
to see CBM break down emotionally with what he accomplished and what the team accomplished, to see Aiden and Stephen Pearl throwing confetti at each other, like playing, and to see Burgo and these guys, like the vibe was just so tight knit. It's the cliche family thing, but like this program is tight, and we've had that continuity of the leadership of the coaches and stuff, and it just really shows up. Nothing major. They didn't like Janai, I think, talked a little bit after he was named tournament MVP, but nothing. He said we weren't going to lose anymore. So
Oh,
we'll see about
Well,
that.
you have to win.
You do have to win now. It's
You
win or
have
go
to
home.
win. It's a
And
great point, Janai.
the scariest part and what makes today, maybe this is a good wrap up point, like the thing that makes this time of year so great and also so terrifying is this group that I think everybody loves. Like people a few weeks ago, started seeing even non-Auburn outlets talk about like it seems like Auburn fans really like this team and why? Like why is this team resonated with them? I think it's a lot of the things we've talked about. But now we enter this reality, and I'm so glad we won today that we'll always have this to look back on. But now we enter this reality that every time we step on the floor, it could be the last time you watch a lot of these guys play. We'll have a lot of off season to talk about it.
we keep
And
like
it's
falling into that like in the bar discussions in our text messages. Like it just there's so much unknown about what's gonna happen with this team afterwards. So yeah, you're right. Enjoy
it can
every
all
one of
be
these players.
over like this starting off.
Not a single player on this team, like any of them could be gone. So just that's how it is this time, one-time transfer stuff too, but also people leaving for the pros, different things. Like it's a weird combo of players too. Like I said, the misfits, but it's all working and like a machine now. It feels like we did have a player or two out of place, but now it feels like we're all in this we haven't had a team like this in a long nobody sticks out, right? It's just this machine. It's so fun to watch with everybody with their roles. And you know how I love the roles. And I'm always talking about, I think you've come to my side a little bit more now that I love the roles. And it helps when people know what they need to be getting done on their job, So it's a lot of fun out there.
Can we
Ty
agree that
K.
I mean, we may not do it, but can we agree that like we still think Sweet 16 is like the goal for? I think this is a Sweet 16 team. I think they're good enough to be that. Now they're gonna have to go earn it, and win 2 games in Canada, basically, to get it done. But hey,
I think if we don't go Sweet 16 now, I think a lot of people in the fan base will be a little not. I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but I think that's the expectation right now when this comes out and how we've played in March. So
Whatever. I'll get my sword out and go to Twitter again.
yeah, just again, we have to keep in mind. I just will keep repeating it. I hope this continues to be true after this next couple weeks. Tennessee's made how many Elite Eights ever?
none. I won with Bruce Pearl.
With Bruce Pearl. 0 without Bruce Pearl. Alabama's made how many Final Four? 0.
Purdue lost to
Elite Eights.
a 16 last year.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it
insane.
happens.
You know what? I'll go back a little bit. We're set, folks. We're set. This is all playing with
Right,
whatever money
right.
now because that's what we talked about. There's 3 ways to have a successful season in college basketball, to have a great season, to be able to call your team great. Win the regular season, win your conference tournament, or go like Elite Eight, Final Four, Sweet 16, whatever in the NCAA. We did it, folks.
It's
We
a
got
great
a
year.
ring. We're putting a banner up. So we're just having fun now, right?
It's a great year. I don't know how you can look at this team with what they've accomplished analytically and on the court with 26 double-digit wins and coming 1 game out of first place regular season, winning the SEC tournament. Hands down, it's a great year no matter what. But we would all be lying. We know the tournament games matter the most. It's how Arkansas has built their thing. It's what we've only made 1 second weekend with Bruce in 9 years. So getting past these 2 games is fairly important for our program. It would be another step in that direction, and it would give us this unbelievable opportunity from there. If it is UConn we're playing, you talk about an opportunity to make a statement. You can't ask for a better opportunity than that. So we just have to see if we can get there.
Ty K says, can't make it next week, but Spokane is a beautiful city with lots to do. We need our Pac Northwest fam to step up. Tickets are available. We'll see about that. We can hope. Ryan's got the confetti going. You got one more thing, Ryan?
Hey guys, yeah. How do I do that? There you go. Listen,
We're having some fun with the emojis and stuff here.
Hey,
shout out Tony Perry for listening to the full podcast here. Lee review, like I said, I already asked you guys to do it once. I'm gonna ask you one more time. Hit the copy, send this thing to a friend. We'd love for some new people to find this after winning a championship. If you're still listening this deep in, final thoughts, guys.
Listen, the ghost of Casey Ross Miller, of Ernest Ross, of Johnny Lett, of Dwayne Reed, of Quan Powell, the ghost of the man of Jalen Williams will all come to shine and propel us through to the promised land again. We've done it once. We'll do it again. As I always say with my friend John Rothstein, we'll sleep in May.
That's right. Where you go, Ryan?
Are you guys, I keep forgetting to ask. Ryan, you having fun?
Dude, I'm having a blast.
Matt, are you having fun?
I had so much fun today. I don't know what else other levels there are, Jackson. But we'll see. Maybe be in Boston in 2 weeks. Who knows?
Who
knows?
You know what? I got to think winning championships is pretty fun. I'm enjoying it. War Eagle, everybody.
See y'all.
War Eagle.
Nice.
Good stuff, man. Glad you
can't believe. Do it.
Glad you got to watch it with Ben.
Oh yeah, it was fun, man. Things we're starting to win so much I can't just be flying down all the time, you know. I've flown to a Final Four. I've flown down for an SEC 2 years ago, and now I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can make it up to Boston or not. A couple years ago, this was so unique. There was no way I was going to miss it, you know.
That is a sucky thing because going in, like it's going to take a lot to beat. If it's UConn, it's going to take a lot to beat them.
Yeah.
It's
not honestly, the reason why I wouldn't go. Just got too much other stuff going on in life. But and then we've done some of this stuff, which is
I'm probably out. So. I mean, I'm probably not going to any tournament games, but I went to the last 4 games. I went to the Georgia game in Auburn and then last 3. So
keep it going. That's why we're winning.
yeah. That's it. No, it was the cool thing. I didn't mention this on the pod, but
we're on live still, by the way. Just
good. Jalen, and watching Jalen Bruce did a masterful job of curtain calling all those guys, like as they were on the floor,
I
slow,
noticed that. Yeah, there was like a one at a time kind of thing.
very
That's fun.
intentional. And
He, but
he got
only Bruce, man. Bruce thinks about all this stuff, and he's very much my kind of coach to think about the marketing of it, how to honor people, how to create an environment that like makes people want to do the right thing.
he actually, he checked Broom back in for Cardwell. Cardwell could have his moment with the fans coming off. And then Janai got his later, and then Jalen was like pretty emotional, more emotional than I've ever seen him hugging Bruce after. Like,
I mean, that's
and
it. He's only got what's
yeah,
left, you know.
yeah. So like it's that was really cool, and seeing I sat behind the bench both yesterday and today, and watching. I know every bench is into it, and maybe it's just because we're attached to these players, but like, just so cool to watch. Like all those 10 guys when they're not on the floor, like Chad Baker Mazara was going nuts for Chris Moore every time Chris Moore did something well. Like at his position where he could be back in. And that's been the unselfishness. Bruce has talked about it, and it's been very evident with this group of like Jalen and Chaney had this big embrace when Jalen was checking out. Those have been the two guys. They've come in for each other all year, and they're sharing that time. And I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's all the poetic, romantic things about basketball and a group of guys that just seem to really like each other. And I mean, I don't know if you're noticing. I feel like of all my people really like this team. Like they even before they won anything this week, people
Thank
really
God we won this because now we can solidify that like this really is a special relationship with these teams, and now we can like put it in banner form and look at it in the arena and be like, yeah, remember that team? They had such great like because they didn't feel like they were breaking through. I feel like we knew there was something different, but they weren't breaking through, and they finally broke through.
How
And then
good is Denver, man?
Chad,
Having a guy like Denver.
Chad, if you got something you wanted us to talk about, you got Matt and me on here for just a couple more minutes, maybe the bonus non-recorded bits. If we didn't talk about something you guys wanted to talk about, you got just a minute to put it in. But no, I'm loving Denver. Denver's a major key of stepping up of why we're starting to be like I brought the 3-point shooting. We still need to step that up a bit. Like that could still get us, but that's
we still shot better from 3 in every game than we did last year.
Brutal, man. And like you said, maybe it was like not having the opening shots, but Denver's changed up a bit. He's starting to turn into that guy that we thought he was. He's driving to the basket and finishing. Dunked it tonight on a transition, I believe. And he's every time he shoots a 3, I'm very confident. If he wants to shoot a 3, I feel really good about it.
And he only takes good looks too. I mean, he really does not force.
Well, now that he can drive too, it's great because if it's not a good look, he'll drive. Which is fantastic. It doesn't like stall the offense when you run a play for him and the 3's not there. He just drives it.
Yeah. I can't believe we didn't talk about that sequence where I guess we kind of did, but Trey hits that cold-blooded 3 and then gets a steal and then gets it to Denver for that dunk. I mean, that was really
tough. It's tough when you got 3 games to talk about.
That was the sequence today that really, because that was a 1-point game to a 6-point game, and then we never really looked back from
It's
there.
crazy that, and I almost wanted to get into this more at point guards, but we were already going so deep at the point guards, but like that Trey is the more confident scorer in my opinion.
Yes.
And if the ball and that's why I wanted him in late so badly. I was like, if we have a possession.
But do you want him being the one with the ball shooting?
No, but it happens. And you've seen how many, luckily this team was passing it around way better and doing this with, but like Bruce Pearl offenses at the end of the shot, with 10 seconds left, a lot of times they just ended up being running around with the point guard in his hand. I'd rather be Trey with that last 10 seconds trying to make something happen than Aiden because I just don't feel confident on his shooting. But it's interesting that Trey's the guy I feel confident hitting a shot if I have to have a point guard do it. And Aiden, I actually feel more comfortable as like a consistent gets the ball where it needs to be guy. I would never thought because Trey just has these once a game it's starting to feel like just weird, but pocket picked or just a intercepted pass. I don't know why, but it's just crazy that it's kind of the reverse role.
You remember earlier in the year, Aiden would always once a game he would go for one of those full length court passes, and
which they did a couple times this last 2 games.
Amazing, but then he started to get picked off because people started to get a read okay, watch his eyes because he'll put it up, and he's kind of quit that. And Trey still sometimes is looking for those aggressive, up court passes and gets picked.
We had a couple in the last 2 games we tried to do that with, but we got way too ahead of ourselves. I think only one that worked out really.
That number I saw, I haven't fact checked it, but 6 turnovers for Trey and Aiden combined for the total of 3 games. Which
That's other people turning the ball over because we had some high turnovers in 2 of
but
these
if
games.
that's true, didn't Trey have like 5 of those? Did Aiden turn it over at all? Like
I
in the
can look
SEC
at the
tournament?
stats. I can look at them. I got them right here.
I know he had 1 or 2. But
Where's
pretty wild.
Aiden had 1 turnover today.
He
Aiden
might have
had
had 2 yesterday.
2 turnovers against Mississippi State.
0.
And Aiden had 0 turnovers against South Carolina.
So it's 3 and 3. It just felt like Trey's were very loud turnovers.
Trey's just had his like pocket picked and they've been intercepted. They're not like that Mississippi State game was brutal with the turnovers. It felt like every passing lane was getting taken away.
State was all over, man. From in person, it really looked like they did such a great job of having their hands available to deflect. I mean, they were constantly like making themselves as wide and tall as they could, and they were really rotating. It's almost like they had done a great job scouting us. Like they knew, okay, if they run this is where they want to go. So you better be ready. If we pretend to double deny, they're going to want to kick it across the court. So be ready to kind of jump. It almost felt like they were a step ahead at times.
I don't know if it's just like they pressed up and were really physical. Like we saw, it was starting to give me shades of Zepp and Wendell, where they were pressing up and we just couldn't get right past them. And like part of that is like Aiden's just not a confident driver. Trey's a little more physical, but he can get his pocket picked. Denver's starting to figure it out a little bit, but I don't know.
We should have mentioned really clutch, like Chad Baker's 3 you mentioned, but Jalen had to go to the line and hit like 4 free throws against that Mississippi State game.
This is Ben's job. Ben's the one that brings up free throws. I don't bring up free throws.
As Jalen's like guy, I was so nervous because you're putting your power forward on the line. He's been an 80+% free throw shooter all year, but like you just get nervous. And then I think Chad Baker missed 1, but he stepped up and hit 1.
We were 10 for 10 from free throw to start the game. Yep. And then I said, look, guys, we're 10 for 10. That's when we missed it.
Spoke too soon.
The other part we didn't talk about either, I guess we don't have to talk about it now, but the refs were terrible the last 2 games.
Yeah. It's easy not to talk about them when you win, but it felt like the last.
They had 6 or 7. We had 6 or 7 fouls to their 0 at one point in the second half, and just because we were up 10, it was okay. Like
we played through, and that's kind of what I was. I mean, I think we played physically, and we matched South Carolina and Mississippi State and Florida in the way the challenges they presented, but we had to fight through a lot of, it was the refs, and it was also Mississippi State, man. Every loose ball kicked to them. Like it was one of the weirdest. They were getting, sometimes the ball just bounces like that. It just felt like every time we would tap the ball out, it could be a steal. It went right to a Mississippi State person. Or every time we, rebounds were kind of going right to them sometimes. So we were getting mad about the rebounds, but some of those were like, it went off at a really weird angle and just went right to the Mississippi State guy. So it felt like we were fighting a lot of that bad luck yesterday, especially. And then today was weird with the fouls. But.
I guess it's a good thing. Like we talk about, we don't want to be in UConn's bracket, but we definitely don't want to be in Houston's either. Like clearly that's like a thing with Bruce Pearl too. So it's interesting you brought that up, that like we clearly have an issue with like really physical big teams like that. And you're right. We pretend like we're like the intense go get the steel team, but like our guys that do that stuff, like KD Johnson, are not the most physical people. Mm-hmm. The guys like CBM that's getting people's faces, he's very thin and small and flying around, but like, we don't actually recruit these like big bulky guys anymore.
Y'all are just lucky we won all this so I could let go of my terrible CBM takes. But do you not agree with me that like how many games have we watched where we get into some stupid skirmish, they review it, and then the game changes entirely how it's ref, and it never helps us. I mean, you can't convince me that it helps us in the grand scheme of the game.
The reviewing the last 3 games was insane. We hadn't seen anything like that all year. I don't know if there was like a change in the SEC tournament or because the team's playing so intensely in March, but like if that's how it is in the NCAA, that's gonna be brutal to watch as a neutral with all these teams that they keep reviewing 3 or 4 times. I don't remember them doing that in past years.
No, because we used to just let it go. Basically, if it wasn't a big fight, like you just kind of separate them.
I feel like you just like got like
or you tee them up.
Maybe I feel like maybe it's like especially if you're going to constantly do the double tech. I've never seen so many double techs in my life. Like in fact, that's what it should be in the past. Something like that where it's like back and forth, just double tech. And we're moving on. Yep. What they're doing is they're going to the video board, seeing that one person is the instigator, and then seeing the retaliation and still giving the double tech. I'm like, if you're going to go to the board, that should be to see who the instigator is because you weren't watching at the time.
We
But like
we can
otherwise, just double check that thing.
we can agree to disagree. Like I think Chad Baker knows what he's doing, and he's very good at it. He's gotten away with it a lot this year, and that's probably why he's still doing it. But he clearly he knows how to flop around like a fish. He knows how to get right in somebody's elbow space. And then sure, the Mississippi State guy got really mad afterwards and it got in his head.
But
But
to be fair, to start, he was punching at CBM and hitting him while he was trying to move around. The ref didn't call that.
But then you got
like,
the foul call. They called a foul, and you can't just be happy they called a foul and go to the free throw line. Instead, you're gonna try to be, and he did it today. He got away with it. They ended up not calling anything, but their guy blocked somebody and stood over him for a minute, and him and Janai both are like right over there, like right in his grill.
At least Janai, knock on wood, has cut out his weird techs. Remember the last 2 years to start this year and all of last year?
He's still
You just look up and get a tech and you'd be like, what in the world? The weakest techs, he would say something or do the too small or stare into somebody or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, at least if you're going to get tech, push somebody, like.
He talks the whole game, and I mean, he's turned into such a good player. You can't. It's just he's
they
always.
They stopped calling techs. Didn't they call a tech on him for doing the too small against like App State or something? Because he's still doing it. The whole team's still doing it.
He's doing it, but he's doing it in a smoother, less dramatic way, which I think is better. Like he's not. I guess
the whole thing was like looking straight at a player, I guess, and doing it. Now he's doing like as he's running away down past the court. But it's just like, why?
The maddest I got. The maddest I got today at the ref was Trey was back like past half court and was yelling and like talking to Steven or Bruce or somebody. And the ref comes over there is like pulling it back. Oh, you can't. Like he was going near the Florida bench. And it was like, I think it was during like a free throw or like, it was weird. And I was like, it was that Pat Adams guy who has the worst, like, it was like, I just couldn't. I was so mad. I was like, just calm down. The best thing
there was a lot of replays or like cutaways of Broom complaining a lot to the refs this game. I don't know if you saw that.
All game.
I don't know if it's good or bad sometimes. Like I feel like the whole deal with Bruce over the years has been like, you guys don't do this, I do this. Like and we know Bruce has got your back,
Now Bruce, though, I've noticed it more and more the last year or two. He will go, like Jalen will be coming off the court. He will go to Jalen. Jalen, go tell the ref why he screwed that call up, basically. Like he's gonna make the play.
Maybe that's a change. No, maybe that's why you're seeing it more. It used to be like you guys don't talk to the refs, I do, and you saw like this purple pearl that was getting teched up and all this stuff. I wonder if they've like adjusted that and they figured out it's actually better to do the other way around.
Bruce was mad about the 6-0, 7-0 foul discrepancy for sure. He was pretty hot to start the second half.
You haven't seen many texts from Pearl in the last couple of years either, right? Yeah. There was a bunch of them the first like 6 or 7 years.
He got that one. He got one this year. Was it at Alabama?
It was like one that was worth it. It was like getting just out of hand.
And it was when Jalen got fouled at the rim, and it would have given us a lead or something. And he got
or would have like brought us back or something. And it just felt like that was the final straw that broke the back of like, all right, enough of this nonsense. Like we were all as a fan base thinking the same thing. We were all like, it might have helped lose us the game for sure. That extra 2 points possession, but it was all like, yeah, you got to do that,
Yeah. Cool stuff for Cardwell today. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but just like him interacting. I don't know if you saw yesterday, but he did hit the post game interviews with certain people, and he's like begging. He's like, Auburn people, please come. We want to like play in front of a sold out. Like the Jungle North, like we want to see it.
Are you getting the vibes the Cardinals not come back next year? They're like honoring him a lot, and they're like taking him out, like you said, this game. It just feels like he's like getting looped in with the Broom and the Jalen. Like
I think they would be thrilled to get one of them back, the center.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've been saying too in the text group in here. That like I think that we want to, or it's realistic to try to get one of them back, but not both.
I would say Janai is acting more like he's gone.
Yeah,
like the way he's even at senior day in Neville, though. There were vibes with him that feel more like, oh, okay, I don't know if there's NIL enough that we can keep him here another year. Like,
I wouldn't blame him at all either. He's done everything he could do to like get better.
So I mean, I'm really fascinated to see what Dylan as a starter would do. He would have to play completely differently in a lot of ways in terms of being more careful with fouls and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And he's never going to have a 3-point shot, I don't think. So he wouldn't
Uh,
have that threat.
He's gotten
Uh,
better every time, but yeah, I don't think he's going to develop that. But he could develop something around the
but
rim,
if he
like
can
more
develop some
finishing.
post moves and like be a serviceable center,
You just
maybe.
think maybe you would have to start seeing it a little more already this year. You've seen better things every time. It's just we haven't seen any like post up moves
The
still.
thing is, though, don't you think we could get? I mean, with Kessler and now Broom, like if you're a big transfer, like a center, like from a small school, like where do you want to go more than here? Like
Yeah,
we're turning these guys into we're getting the most out of these
turn him
lower
into All
level.
Americans. You know,
Yeah, like I just think so. The question with Cardwell would be,
is he
let's
cool? That's
say
recruiting.
let's say Janai leaves and we still go get some other great center, like is Dylan going to stay? Which he might not.
And if you can you risk that? But I think you have to. It's sad, but I think you have to do the recruiting because we tried that 2 years ago and it didn't work out very well.
Yeah,
So I think you got
yeah.
to do it. Same with Cheney Johnson. I
Same with
think
Cheney.
you gotta keep recruiting and just be like, hey, beat him out. You know, like
The good thing is these guards that I know we're not maybe always thrilled with. Um, I do think they've proven enough that they're like I think Denver will be a really good player next year. I think Chad will be a really good player next year. I think
KD's gonna
Aiden.
come back for his 5th year and everybody's gonna love that.
I don't know.
I
I don't know.
feel pretty good about Denver, Trey, and Aiden coming back. I think there's
And
a
then you bring
chance
in
Aiden could be upset and leave, but
well, and you've got a potential Chris Moore replacement behind CBM, super athletic freak. And then you've got 5-star point guard coming in too. So a lot of
so
new weapons.
you might would move Aiden over to Denver's position maybe with that
That
new guy.
that's the
Yeah.
scuttlebutt I've heard is that maybe
Mm.
you let
Then we
KD
might
go.
lose Aiden if you ask him to do that, you know.
Well,
We have
or
a lot of small guys again at the 1-2, you know.
or I mean, I don't know. I don't. I mean, maybe you do, but honestly, that might be the move. On if Aiden's going to leave, then maybe KD sticks around. But I'm almost wondering if Aiden comes in, Todd Pettiford comes in, Aiden stays, Denver stays, Trey stays. I think you're probably letting KD, do what he wants to do, I guess. But
Yeah. I don't know what you do
interesting.
with that. Yeah, too many small guys. None of them can like really move over to the 3, you know? Because you want to be like, oh, KD or Denver can move to the 3 to make current. Not really. Not really.
Be
You
interesting.
can do a little bit with Denver, but he's still too small for that too.
I've honestly been surprised we haven't done it more, but I think it's because CBM turned out to be like a good player. Like I think if CBM had struggled when Chris Moore and Lear were struggling, then I think you would have seen more
I
Denver
mean, we did
KD.
the opposite, right? We put Denver at the 1 some because Aiden was struggling so
Yeah.
much at one
I think we
point.
did it
That's
early in the season a little bit, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
let's I heard Syracuse has got a good guy that could play 1 through 3, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that's his name.
The names on the street I've heard, which these are probably just pipe dreams, but the Josh Hubbard kid from Mississippi State
Really? It's
is really good.
tough to get kids from other SEC West teams like that.
You would think, but what's the other one? Shoot, dang it! There's another one I heard that was pretty interesting. Could just be nothing. But
It's gonna be chaos. I'll have to sign back up for message boards again to figure out who's gonna play on our team
every
next
year, you
year.
got to rebuild your team.
Insanity. We'll see. Bruce is acting a little up too, but I guess it was the dad thing. But it worried me a little bit when he was getting so emotional. I was like, you're not leaving, are you? You're not this isn't your last run or anything, right?
Hopefully not. Seems like he's still got a lot of gas in the tank, but
Yeah, there's just a lot going
he,
on outside of basketball that I worries distracted him and made him think beyond his role. But yeah, we'll
or
see.
even like just the way he's not a big fan of some, like a lot of these coaches, the way
Yeah.
things are right now. I mean, it's a real. A lot of these coaches have retired because of it.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder too. They asked Todd Golden so much about Bruce, but you look over at Todd Golden, or Bruce looks over at Todd Golden and says, "Well, this guy I trained up. Well, I'm gonna compete against him now. Like he's so much younger and gonna have to adapt to all this stuff. Like, do I really have it in me to like hustle as much as Todd Golden's gonna hustle to keep up with what's going on in college basketball? Like we're already like I wonder if you win something here, we're already gonna build a statue to him. Like, what else you want? You know?
Yeah, I mean he's proven you can disagree with some of his recruiting and loyalty to players' tactics, but like he's proven that he's adapting pretty well.
Oh
I
yeah, I
think,
mean,
and he's
so
winning.
far it just
He's
keeps
winning in
getting
his way. So
crazier. I mean, I was worried 3 or 4 years ago. Let's see if he adapts. Some people didn't. He did. Yeah, but it just keeps going, man. We got
most wins in 7 years in the league. I mean, it's just I, it's not always how. Again, it reminds me of the offense, right? It's not always like the prettiest thing. It maybe not always the way that everybody else is doing it, but it's hard to argue with the results.
Why does Rick Barnes feel so much older than? Oh, he is older than Bruce by 5 years. Okay, Calipari's a year older than Bruce.
Wow.
I was just surprised. I don't see how much Rick Barnes has got left in him. 69 years old. I wouldn't mind seeing him go.
Get him out. Let's see. Now we're left to just cheer against these same teams on Friday in the tournament. We can't have a Alabama Final Four. We can't have a Tennessee Final Four. We got to keep them
It'll
out
be that again. It'll be over again unless we make our own run.
unless we do our own thing, and then we don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, it's been like that a couple years ago. Luckily, at least we got one more ring now, so it feels a little better, even if one of these teams goes on a run. As long as it's not Alabama.
I mean, the crazy, and it stinks for us, especially you and I think, with our like rivals. But I mean, if you go look at all the rings in the last like 5 years, it's pretty much Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn. Like that's pretty much it.
Sucks how much Alabama's name's on there now. It sucks they
Oh,
got the double. They got the
but
double, and like twice now they got the double, I believe. The
they
bull
got the
crap.
double, but we matched them in total now. Like we're back even. Like we responded.
We should be. It doesn't feel like it because we've been doing it for longer. It feels like
Well,
they've doubled up on their years. They
would
doubled
you
in the
rather
stupid
have
COVID year. Like,
would you rather have your two win both, or would you rather have 4 years of winning one? I mean, which one's better? I don't know. Which one's
probably the
more
4 years
impressive?
of winning one because then you space it out longer.
I
But
didn't want to mention it on the pod, but it is like I mean, selfishly, like they won 2 of the last 3 SEC tournaments. So like, good for us. We got one, and
we couldn't have them win a ring this year of any kind. Like we can't have them going on a Final Four run either.
I know we got to make sure they. And I honestly, it's weird that both Auburn and Alabama are going to Spokane. Both are playing mid majors, like non P5, all the way to the Sweet 16. Both are playing 1 seeds potentially in the Sweet 16. So it'll be very interesting to see how they handle.
Yeah, we didn't really look at. They got Charleston.
St. Mary's is a good team, but they're going to struggle.
Has upset some people for sure. St.
Yep.
Mary's. I don't know if I believe in St. Mary's or not. And then they got North Carolina after that potentially.
Yeah, so they have a very similar path to us, just without UConn.
I heard some people talking about that Mississippi State, Michigan State matchup versus North Carolina that next round. That might be if you're going to pick a 1 seed to go down early. That Michigan State, Miss State,
Yep.
They play so physical and tough like they played against us. You could just kind of get somebody off kilter,
Yeah, that would stink, because I think Alabama would beat both of those teams.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, we'll see. I'll start cheering for my bracket. Oh, we didn't even announce to do the Charles Barkley bracket thing. Crap. Whatever. It didn't work out that well last year anyway. So
I got my that I beat Charles sticker. That's all
we can post about it. We could put up a quick one on Monday or Tuesday or something. But
yeah.
All right. That's enough.
Okay.
You crazy. I can't believe people listen. 16 people would listen to us talk like our phone calls.
I'm probably up for recording whenever we want to Friday night after the first game. So I assume we'll probably get back to after each game now that it's every other day.
Yeah, I think I agree, but we'll just see who's available.
I know it's a weird time.
3 something. I wonder if I'll be going down there. I hate that because I thought Spokane for sure, because on the West Coast would be a night game. That's got to be like 11 a.m. in
1:15 in Spokane, Washington.
And what time? It says it's a 4:15 game, 5:15
Eastern, 4:15 for you.
4:15 Eastern. Okay. All right, yeah, you can hit the take off the live thing. I was gonna say something, but like no.